And we're live. Hello, folks. Oh, just exactly at 10 o'clock. There you go. I thought I was about to get on a wee second or so just to check everything's working okay. Hopefully, everything's good tonight. It looks like we've got green lights on our sound. There we are. Just turn the microphone around a little bit, and everything seems to be fine on the screen. So I'll say hello. I'm Doc Sloan. Thank you very much for joining me. And welcome to the Doghouse here on our science fiction stage on YouTube. And tonight we're getting into chapter 11 of Children of Dune. It's a cracking chapter. And in all honesty, the reason I know I'm trying to go for a regular time on Thursdays at 10 o'clock, I simply had too much work to do with this chapter for the first half of it, pretty much. I ended up having to go and do all sorts of kind of looking for stuff, basically. And I found it to be a very busy chapter in terms of I suppose literary references and etymological references and things like that. So I'm really looking forward to getting into it. This one I've called Alia's Katabasis for reasons why, and we'll explain. But essentially, this chapter represents her personal descent into hell, if you like, or a form of hell, and I suppose then her rising out of that and what and how that occurs. So in some ways, this is part of the hero's journey, actually, with Alia. I would say for anybody who likes to do those kind of use those kind of systems. You know, there's Carlos Crescelius saying, "Hey, Doc, hi Carlos, how you doing? I hope you're keeping well." And thank you very much for joining me as always. Might be a quiet one tonight. I don't know. Pardon me, I understand the USA has been getting hit by a big hurricane and stuff. So I hope you're all keeping safe out there. And got a wee message there, by the way, from Chaya Rivka out in Israel, just to let us know that she's safe as well. There's just popped it up on the station just before something. We look at it just before I came on there, and I sent her a wee response. So just to let Chaya know we're thinking of her, you know, and hope that she's safe and her family. And there's Telios to Wizards, Babs saying, "Evening, Doc. How you doing, Babs? Thanks very much for joining us." I'm getting there with the health, by the way. Maybe you can tell I'm not wheezing quite as much. Pardon me. And the cough is getting slowly better. I've been throwing cough medicine and lem sips and cough sweets and all sorts of things in me. In particular, decongestants, but they seem to be working. But I'm getting it's ridiculous how slowly better I'm getting. If you see what I mean, it's taking its time. Pardon me. Um, hmm. Carlos is saying two in a row. Actually, that's right. Carlos, apologies. Two hurricanes in a row. Yes, indeed. Yeah, that's just crazy weather out there, isn't it? And Telios is, but I'm saying, howdy, Carlos. Hey, TD. Yeah. I hope you are all safe out there. And there's Cynthia saying, hi, Doc. Hi, all. Hi, Cynthia. Thanks very much for joining us. I hope you had a good holiday out with the family. Well, it's good to see you back. Yeah, I'm tell you what, I'm looking forward to this chapter, by the way, guys. It's pardon me. There's Connor Quinn saying, hello, Doc. Carlos, Telios, Cynthia. Hi, Connor. Thanks very much for joining us. There's lots in this one, folks, you know. And I'll give you a wee idea just of some of the scribbles I've been doing and stuff like this in my little book. As much as we only have kind of one casualty in this, we've got all sorts of things going on here. Check this out. Over here. Well, hey, we're going into the classical world. We're going into Greek mythology. We're going into demonology today. Rather interestingly enough, and a number of grimoires on demonology. We have some interesting character names within this chapter, and we have. I suppose ultimately what we're going to see is a little bit of shift in time with this chapter, but we're going to get a good insight into the mind of Alia, and we're even going to go back to her childhood and take a little journey through her life, up to the point where the multitude become a problem. And there we go. Check this stuff out. And of course, in this chapter, we have the return, the proper return, if you like, it's been suggested and hinted at, of the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, our great villain from Dune. Baron Harkonnen dead. He's been spending a few years dead for tax purposes. So no, there's all sorts of here, and it really does take us into the mind of Alia. And I think ultimately within this chapter, we start to see a bit of Alia's struggle with abomination, with the whole nature of other memory, etc. And I think we see her start to lose that battle. But the fact that she fights against it, etc., and it's quite a lonely, isolated struggle, I think we get to see a lot of sympathy develop for Alia in this chapter, and as much as she should be a hero, like Paul Atreides maybe is in that sense, that she's heading down a route of villainy within this book, and it's a sad thing actually. And within this, I suppose we're going to see the seeds being sown of her redemption, if you like, as well. So there's a lot in this chapter for particularly for Alia, and all, of course, with the Baron coming in. There's just loads, actually, to be honest with you. And as I said, sorry, folks, that's why it took me. I've been writing notes up to about 9 o'clock tonight, and I had a full go at it yesterday as well, the whole day. So it's been it's been epic, you know. So there's Tyler saying, "Heidi, Cynthia, Heidi, Connor, hi, Babs." Connor saying, "Hey guys, hope you're all doing well." And Tyler saying, "Thanks for remembering Cynthia, I'm complimented." There we go. So it's good to see you all, folks. And I said, I hope you are all keeping well. Weather's not too bad here. Actually, we've had a really nice day here today. Oddly enough, we're getting a few good days at the end of the year, but we've had very little summer here at all, you know. But yeah, the world's a bit crazy, big bad weather all over the place and stuff, you know. Oddly enough, here we go. We'll start with epigraph number 11, folks. We'll get going because we've got plenty to look at, and I think within this chapter, I'll say this. I think I've got some of my questions answered finally. In particular, in relation to Alia's other memory, and we've had lots of discussions about this on the channel over the years. And simply put, I suppose it's really my kind of I'm coming back to the books in this kind of order, and I've kind of not wanted to have too much of a nosy ahead. So, but really, I think this is the chapter where a lot of my questions I think have been answered. In relation to particularly why is the Baron Harkonnen in Alia's other memory? How does that work? Is she a Kwisatz Haderach, etc., etc.? I think it's all here, and I think we also have a real setting for the tragedy of Alia here as well. So our epigraph is possibly slightly something prophetic. Let's see. I hear the wind blowing across the desert, and I see the moons of winter night rising like great ships in the void. To them I make my vows. I will be resolute and make an art of government. I will balance my inherited past and become a perfect storehouse of my relic memories. And I will be known for kindliness more than for knowledge. My face will shine down the corridors of time for as long as humans exist. And we're told that this is Leto's vow after Hark al-Ada. Pardon me. Now, essentially, we're going to see a parallel to this within this chapter. And for those of us who know, I suppose maybe a bit of a spoiler warning in relation to the God Emperor, pardon me, is that ultimately, how does the God Emperor deal with the process of abomination and all that it entails? And the answer is here. This is how he does it. I will balance my inherited past and become a perfect storehouse of my relic memories. This is what he does. How he does it is with the use of one single personality, within which that personality will keep all of the others in check, if you like. And that personality for the God Emperor is the Pharaoh Harem, who is the Egyptian Pharaoh, let me see, Khufu. That's it. Sorry, who the Greeks called Cheops. I was going to watch with these names because I tend to be more familiar with Greek names. So this is that personality that he chooses. And within this chapter, we're going to see the same process really happen for Alia, which is interesting, I suppose. In that it seems that perhaps that the difference between the two, this is what I began to wonder about, is that I think ultimately that Leto chooses a personality out of the many that are there. But in this case, a personality comes to the fore. And interestingly enough, I suppose we have, in a sense, the same personalities must be in Alia's other memory probably as there are in Leto's. So I suppose maybe I'm going to get some questions answered tonight, but perhaps it looks like it might start creating new ones, you know. Excuse me, as is the way with this, with Frank. So here we go. Let's get going, folks. Alia Atreides. Now let's see. When she was young, Alia Atreides had practiced for hours in the Prana Bindu trance, trying to strengthen her own private personality against the onslaught of all those others. She knew the problem. Melange could not be escaped in a siege war. It infested everything: food, water, air, even the fabrics against which she cried at night. Very early she recognized the uses of the siege orgy, where the tribe drank the death water of a worm. In the orgy, Fremen released the accumulated pressures of their own genetic memories, and they denied those memories. She saw her companions being temporarily possessed in the orgy. And so I've written down there, wow, that's interesting. I've had to do a wee bit of moving around, as you can probably see within that. I'm just wondering about a particular book and where has it moved. Bear with me a wee quick second, folks. Let me see. There you are. Right. This is a wee book. Pardon me. I don't think this is a particularly modern book. Let me just check it quickly. I think I might have mentioned it before. This one's from, published 1958. This is a history of orgies. Not the modern type. And it's by Burgo Partridge. A history of orgies. And it's a very good book. And this one in particular, I suppose, in terms of the religious and sort of various aspects of them, this one covers the Greeks, the Romans, the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, Puritan and Rake. Let's see, what's that? Medman Hamites and the Georgian Rakes, the 18th century on the continent, the Victorians, and the 20th century. But the chapters on the Greeks and the Romans in particular are quite good, etc., etc. So anybody's interested in that kind of thing, that's a proper book on the subject. You know, no pictures. Just checking. There we go. So what's fascinating about this is what we're being told here. And I've written down that the Fremen orgy equals sexual possession plus denial. That's my equation for a Fremen orgy. In the orgy, Fremen released the accumulated pressures of their own genetic memories, and they denied those memories. Right? So there's a release of the memories of these personalities. They deny it happens. And then the comment here from Alia is that she saw her companions being temporarily possessed in the orgy. So this is to go into detail then within the Fremen orgy, that the individual Fremen within it, having drank the death put here, go into a form of orgiastic possession. If their ancestors are possessing the tribe and that they're engaging in sex while being possessed. And that they're aware of this and that they deny it. So it didn't happen. Nobody talks about it, you know. And I think that's very, very interesting. There's going to be a number of parallels to the multitude within this chapter of things that Alia looks at and how that these things cope with things that she seems to be like or similar to. her problem of the multitude, if you like. But I think that's fascinating, and it's a very particular thing. We're being given very specific details about the Fremen siege orgy here in relation to the drug. And I think that's excellent. I think it's just a very that's incredible, and it's also interesting from Alia's point of view. If you think, I've just written "wow" next to this. This is really interesting, and it's a particular detail, Carlos saying kind of a shared sexual purge, yeah, and I like the fact that it's just the fact that's in there is they're in denial about it. They don't admit it. And it releases what are we, the accumulated pressures of their own genetic memories. So it's kind of, as you say, a sexual purge. It's like, a venting, a vent of some genetic steam from the ancestors. Let them have let them have an orgy once a month, something like that, and they'll leave us alone. A lot of this, by the way, reminds me on. I think Herbert's big influence, particularly on the preborn, is the unborn. From Samuel Butler's Erewhon, and the level of plaguing that they do on the Erewhonians in order to get born. And this kind of reminds me a lot of that, and in particular, I suppose that how the end result of that for the Erewhonians is that unable to deal with this, that they come up with these birth contracts that the plaguing unborn are forced to sign before they can be born. There's a bit of that here as well. There's a bit of a negotiation and a contract between Alia and the Baron as we get down. So they say the Fremen mechanism of coping with their memories suggests why Chinese Fremen genes complemented the rarefied genetic heritage of Bene Gesserit ancestors provided by Paul. Mm-hmm. And I like the way we're putting this sexual, the Fremen mechanism of coping with their memories. Yeah, it's an interesting point. So that suggests why Chinese Fremen genes complemented the rarefied genetic heritage of Bene Gesserit ancestors provided by Paul. Yeah, it's a good point. And I always like that. I think I mentioned it the last time as well, Cynthia, just in with Chinese genes are the Kynes family genes. And I always think of that as within, as much as we see the Kynes family and what sort of motivates them and stuff, they must be quite impressive as people, as a family. Kind of always wondered, are they meant to be part of it or something, and if not, why aren't they being factored into it? Carlos said, I've read that these scenes were inspired by his experimental use of fly alaric mushrooms right down to the blue color of the water of life. I've heard about that. At the same time, didn't we get, I don't know, we dug it out. I must have a wee nosy about it, but from according to Brian Herbert, Daddy has 3 drug experiences, and that's it. I must have a wee nosy at it again. All right. But yeah, I've heard of that. Isn't that from that? There's a particular mushroom guy or something saying, "Oh, I met Frank Herbert and blah blah blah, etc." But yeah, I've heard that before. So, Carlos, yeah. Let's have a wee look. But yeah, I think just the level of just that. I mean, it's such a short passage, by the way. What we get from it, if we pay attention to it, I think is quite important. But it shows us that things. I suppose even with we were talking about prediction last week, and I think when I was talking about Einstein's theories of relativity, I think I jumped topic. I'm pretty sure I did, and ended up talking about time travel when what we should have been talking about was prediction. I think, but within the Dune universe, for example, it's not long before we figure out that quite a lot of people can predict stuff. The Kwisatz Haderach's not going to be the only one. And it seems that what I was also getting from that, we're going to find out a little bit about Fremen attitudes towards the possessed, if you like. What was I thinking there? Well, yeah, the point is, as much as the Alia is going through abomination as a form of possession, it seems therefore that every single, based on what we're told that in this, that through the orgy, through the the whole spice orgy with the process of transmuting the water of life and stuff like that to make it safe, it, every adult Fremen experiences a form of possession. Although it seems to be limited and temporary, and within this, I suppose we're getting that it's a sexual release, you know. And of course, as we going on here, but we're going to be getting this, by the way. So I think it's important to note this, that whenever we get on further down the road, the Baron's going to hold off the pressure, but what's he get out of return? He wants sexual release. So I'm just to point that out, that for some reason the shadows of the shades of the dead in your other memory and your your collective unconscious, if you like, seems to be that they're all horny. I told this chapter's going to be fun. It's going to be a bit, but it's also it's going to be quite sad, I think, as well. But again, for Alia, for her, there is no such release, no denial. So she can't get rid of the pressures of the genetic memories, and she can't deny that it's happening. And so this is one of the things that she's able to compare her own experience to, because we're going to find out that this is quite, a private thing, And of course, the problem for us is that the drug melange is in everything as well. So for her, there was no such release, no denial. She had possessed full consciousness long before birth. With that consciousness came a cataclysmic awareness of her circumstances, womb locked into intense, inescapable contact with the persona of all her ancestors, ba-boom, and two, and of those identities death transmitted in Spice Tower to the Lady Jessica. So this is the answer to my big question from years ago, and we've been wondering about it. We've all had a good discussion about it, is how is the Baron Harkonnen in Alia's other memory? And the answer is simply that Frank Herbert tells us so here. And that it's all of her ancestors. So the answer is here, how is the Baron in Alia's memory? Frank tells us here, this is what I've written here, and it's the word all. So it's all of her ancestors plus the identities that are transmitted in the Spice Tower to the Lady Jessica were also transmitted to her. So that's that Bene Gesserit collection, if you like, of other memory, which I'm assuming would include the ancestors down through that line. But there we go. That's the answer. So, and I've also written that Alia is a Kwisatz Haderach as well, and that she can see into the future at certain points. But the other memory, being able to see into both male and female line here. But this is what we're told. So, womb locked into an intense, inescapable contact with the persona of all her ancestors. That's her entire genetic line. And of those identities, death transmitted in Spice Tower to the Lady Jessica. We're going to see some of those ancestors. And also, I suppose, in terms of who are the Atreides in this at this current point in this far future universe, and are they the same? Are they descended from the Atreides? Of ancient Greek mythology? Within this chapter, we'll also have an answer to that. The answer is yes. They're the same family, because we're going to get the ancestor, or one of them anyway. Carl said in Mexico, from what I've heard, Alia had the divinity. Yeah, I'm not sure about that one, Carl said. Was he sure what he had? But that's right, Mexico, from what I heard. I think one was some weed, and I think something else was something somebody made for him or something. I didn't ever get that Frank Herbert's knowledge about drugs really went past the academic, really, if you see what I mean, or the theoretical, a couple of dibble dabbles. You know, 3 drops don't make a pond, this kind of thing. But yeah, I think we've looked it up before. But I'll tell you what, if I had it handy, actually, we've got a new drug in this chapter as well, though, Carlos, interestingly enough. But there we go. That the property of I suppose, if we think about that, it's another thing, Carlos, that we have to consider, that this is a property of melange, or sorry, this isn't melange, is it? This is a property of the bile, isn't it, from the sandworm? And as much as the melange is a part of its a product of its life cycle, if you like, the bile from the stunted worm, if you like, that's drowned, the little maker, that's got to be in some way, some kind of, chemically related. But it's transmuted. It's deadly, isn't it, to men? Transmuted by the Reverend Mother, and then made spat back in and made safe. That becomes the orgy drug. So it's a form of the water of life, and it brings water of life again. It maybe starts to give more meanings to that term, that it seems that those who take it are temporarily possessed by an ancestor, and that they get it all. Dear, oh dear. But that's it. That's right there, I think. And for me, that answers the question: why is the Baron Harkonnen in Alia's other memory? Based on what Frank tells us here, makes perfect sense that she would have male and female ancestors, and especially if she's a Kwisatz Haderach. But he's her grandfather, and he's there, I suppose. I've often wondered about this, and I've often considered it possibly a part of her madness. But there we go. I think, Conversation, Alia had the divinity. If you go back far enough, the people who live in the past are divided into those related to everyone and those related to no. When Paul drank the water of life and shared with his mother, Jessica, did he get the same set of ancestral memories as Alia has? Or was it a narrower band of ancestral memories? I've got to assume that it's the same group, but that it includes the male and female. Again, and as much as the Bene Gesserit are breeding for someone who can, I suppose, have the mentat abilities of, someone like a navigator who can see really well with prescience, etc. They're looking for that within the Kwisatz Haderach, but they're also looking for the access to the male other memory as well. And as much as they might maybe consider that Paul and Alia are in that sense failures for the program, I think it's a failure for the program because they can't control it. Pardon me. And as much as both, I think at this point, I kind of believe that both Paul and Alia are Kwisatz Haderachs, but they're also both something else, as Paul says. I think Paul was much more orientated to going forward here. Alia seemed to be very comfortable with that within Dune, even kind of leaving a future message for Paul, if you see what I mean, through her abilities. And we were kind of told that she was even more powerful, than Paul. And she seems to have at some point lost that. And it's possibly, why has she lost that? Possibly because of either, as we said, usually it seems to be something happening either around puberty or on the cusp of adulthood, with these individuals, other than a few more years of their parents' lives, I think Paul and Alia should have the same memories. Yeah, pretty much. It's the same set of ancestors. But as I said, in terms of male ancestors, we're not going to see. We're going to see a few, not too many, but the Baron obviously. We're going to see a few. Some remain kind of anonymous, and others, I suppose, are hinted at, possibly. But that's for me. There you go. There's your answer, Russell. How come it's one of her ancestors, and he says that's. And if Frank says, then that's canon, as far as I'm concerned, and on we go. I've still got plenty of questions, but at least I get it now, and I remember. I think it's just something I've forgotten, possibly, and never came back to check up on. But this is where we found it, folks, and I'm quite pleased about that. So yes, all of her ancestors and of those identities, death transmitted in the spice tau to the Lady Jessica. Before birth, Alia had contained every bit of knowledge required in a Bene Gesserit Reverend Mother, plus much, much more from all those others. Pardon me. I wrote down, I was trying to, it looks like I wrote a term down here for the Fremen in relation to their use of the orgiastic drug in their sex lives, was that they're practicing practicing temporal abomination deniers. Pardon me, sorry. I was trying to figure out a term for it, and I just tried to. That was the best I could do. That the Fremen, as culturally, are practicing temporal abomination deniers. And in that knowledge lay recognition of a terrible reality, abomination. Pardon me. So again, I think our sympathy for Ali is going to build here. The totality of that knowledge weakened her. The preborn did not escape. And that seems very final there. Still, she fought against the more terrifying of her ancestors, winning for a time a Pyrrhic victory, which had lasted through childhood. She'd known a private personality, but it had no immunity against casual intrusions from those who lived their reflected lives through her. And we have Alia's thoughts here. Thus will I be one day, she thought. And this thought chilled her. So that's quite fatalistic, isn't it? The sense of her own fate, her own doom, her own weird, like to get that one in. And again, it's sad here. We have, we'll just finish that little bit there. To walk and dissemble through the life of a child from her own loins, intruding, grasping at conscious to add a quantum of experience. Fear stalked her childhood. It persisted into puberty. She had fought it, never asking for help. Who would understand the help she required? Not her mother, who could never quite drive away that spectre of Bene Gesserit judgment that preborn were abominations. Now, there's a sense of doom there, a sense of fatalism, and at the same time, admiration for Alia. That sense of doom. She fights anyway. She's weakened by the knowledge of what she is, but she fights. She fights against it. And so we have, and Alia up until this point is one of our protagonists, if we want to call that, one of our heroes, I think. In the previous book, she's not been really a villain at all until we're heading into this, I suppose. And she's fought it off against the more terrifying of her ancestors. And we're told that she wins for a time a Pyrrhic victory. That she had known a private personality, but had no immunity against casual intrusions from those who lived their reflected lives through her. So we'll see that this kind of mirrors up against her real physical life, if you like. Thus I'll be one day, and the thought children. I think this is quite sad. And also makes you kind of, I think that next little bit, to walk and dissemble through the life of a child, this bit kind of makes as you kind of to look down a bit on the personalities and other memory. A Pyrrhic victory, not too sure if that's the case, perhaps it is. A Pyrrhic victory refers to a victory where you've won, but the damage done to yourself is so bad that you might as well have lost, if you see what I mean. It's named after Pyrrhus of Epirus. I've got his quote here for you. One other such victory would utterly undo him. There's a quote about it. It's to do with the Pyrrhic War, which is between the Republic of Rome and the Greek city-state of Epirus. And it's kind of fought over well, basically another sort of city-state, Tarentum. So you've got two interesting battles. If anybody wants to look at it, these are the battles that we'll be referring to as the ones that basically are a Pyrrhic victory. There's the Battle of Heraclea in 280 BC, and then there's the Battle of Asculum in 279 BC. And interestingly enough, if anyone's into that kind of thing, I was having a wee nosy at it. Pyrrhic victory is very famous. I think it's in common parlance, isn't it? Everybody kind of knows what it is. For anyone who's interested, I think the Battle of Heraclea, 280 BC, is the first time that a Roman legion kicked off against the Macedonian phalanx. And so that's the Pyrrhic victory that we're talking about. That's interesting. The first time two sort of types of troops get to kick off at each other, I believe. So on we go just quickly. Fear stalked her childhood. Persisted into puberty. She had fought it, never asking for help. Again, that's we're giving her. We should be giving her our sympathy here. She's brave, and she's fighting a battle that she can't win. Who would understand the help that she required? Not her mother, who could never quite drive away that spectre of Bene Gesserit judgment. The preborn were abomination. So it's basically, if you're preborn, you're cooked pretty much. There's no ifs or buts about it. And that her mother, who's within, I think, or possibly the mother without, or possibly both. She can't ever get away from that idea of the Bene Gesserit judgment. The preborn were abomination, and there's no ifs, buts, or whatever, if you like, Let's see, just catch up with your comments. I saw the wee line moving up there. Carl said, makes sense. Leto and Gannon were virtually identical in memory and experience until they separated, and Paul and Alia didn't. Yes. And there's Zach Armstrong message. Hi, Zach. Thanks for joining us. There's Julian Thompson saying, hi, everyone. Hi, Julian. Thank you for joining us. Glad to make it in time. No worries. We're just getting started, Julian. There's loads in this tonight. I think you're going to enjoy it. And Carl saying, glad to have you here, buddy. Yes, indeed. And call it a draw. Yes, indeed. Is that the Romans and the Macedonians? Yeah. Epirus, Pyrrhus, indeed. That's so. As we're moving kind of through, almost biographically, very briefly, Alia's life, there had come that night, and then we get forward a little bit here, when her brother walked alone into the desert, seeking death, giving himself to Shai-Hulud, as blind Fremen were supposed to do. Within the month, Alia had been married to Paul's swordmaster, Duncan Idaho, a mentat, brought back from the dead by the arts of the Tleilaxu. Her mother fled back to Caladan. Paul's twins were Alia's legal charge. So a very quick sort of recap there brings us up to date. And she controlled the regency, her power. So she's got married Duncan Idaho. She's married a dead guy. Interestingly enough, she's married a dead guy. And then she's going to, by the end of this chapter, be invested in another relationship with a dead person. Things start to get a little bit strange here, don't they? The pressures of responsibility had driven the old fears away, and she had been wide open to the inner lives demanding their advice. So for a time, she had managed to get a little bit of a victory and keep them at it, keep them back. Now at this point, with the pressure, she started going into the other memory and asking the inner lives for advice. And here we get this point of crisis that I suppose ultimately where Alia reaches. And I think maybe this is the point where her really becomes what I suppose the Bene Gesserit considered to be abomination. But I've kind of looked at this as a personal hell for her. The crisis came on a day like many others in the spring month of Lab, a clear morning at Muad'Dib's keep, with a cold wind blowing down from the pole. Lab, by the way, let's see, what have I got on that? The spring month of Lab is a Fremen, I'm going with it being a Fremen month, possibly. Lab is a German surname from the Bavarian sort of Nab River region, and it means damp or moist. But Lab is also in, let me see, in the Tagalog language, Lab's a noun, which means blaze or spreading flame. Damp or moist or spreading flame. And spring month of Lab, thinking it could have with Arrakis, it could be either. Especially especially with what's been going on with the ecology. I guess it's probably the first one, the Tagalog word for blaze or spreading flame, as the planet gets warmer towards possibly its summer. Now we're told. So the crisis came on a day like many others in the spring month of Lab, a clear morning at Muad'Dib's keep with a cold wind blowing down from the pole. Cold. Alia still wore the yellow for mourning, the colour of the sterile sun. More and more these past few weeks, she'd been denying the inner voice of her mother, who tended to sneer at preparation for the coming holy days to be centered on the temple. I've just scribbled down here. Paul's keep is not her place; that's his place. The temple is her place, and that there's possibly a sense of dislocation here for her, having to be around the keep, if you like. By the way, I've just called this one. What do I call this? Jessica and the real Jessica. I've decided to call her sub-psycho Jessica. So we have the inner awareness of Jessica faded, shrinking away at last with a faceless demand that Alia would be better occupied on Atreides' law. New lives began to clamour for their moment of consciousness. Alia felt that she had opened a bottomless pit, and faces arose out of it like a swarm of locusts until she came at last to focus on one who was like a beast. The old Baron Harkonnen. In terrified outrage, she screamed out against all of that inner clamour, winning a temporary silence. Just to point out all the imagery there. We have a bottomless pit, we have a swarm of locusts, and we have the second beast, if you like, because we have mention of one previous. So biblical and hell imagery and reference possibly to the beast of the apocalypse. It's the old Baron, and he's back. He's not back just yet, but there's a bunch of stuff here actually on this in relation to hell and demons and things like that. On this morning, Alia took her pre-breakfast walk through the keep's roof garden. In a new attempt to win the inner battle, she tried to hold her entire awareness within Choda's admonition to the Zen Sunni. Leaving the ladder, one may fall upward. The good old exclamation mark there. Leaving the ladder, one may fall upward. Frank's having a bangeria bang bang in this chapter. Now, very quickly, Choda, I hadn't managed to find anything. Quickly had a look just before I came online, and I found that Choda in Hindi means the following: bastard, son of a bitch, or penis. So let's run with that. Now, his admonition, to admonish someone, from the Latin admonere, is to urge someone to do something via, or not to do something via a warning. So to urge by warning, if you like. So this is son of a bitch's warning to the Zen Sunni. I'm not making this stuff up, by the way. I'm hoping that information is correct. If anybody else has got any other stuff on Choda, by the way, I'd love to hear it. So leaving the ladder, I'd like to hear your opinions on this. Warning against what? Is it paradoxical? You cannot fall upwards in the literal sense, but a fall as in a defeat or a downfall, or a fall as in a lapse of a human into a state of sin, or A fall as in a person's own moral decline. So the second point, I suppose, is what is the ladder? And why does leaving it make it possible to fall upwards? Leaving means to step off in this case, I suppose. So I actually kind of went with what's the opposite of this, just to sort of get a sense on it, and that would be kind of like joining the ladder. One may rise downward, rising with power, falling as a person, if you like. So I kind of went with what, in sense of the ladder, we have ladders in the Bible, etc. And the main one is Jacob's ladder, which appears in Genesis 28:11-19. And if anybody wants to take a wee look at that. But also what I fundamentally believe here is that this is a huge clue and foreshadowing. And as much as we can also have a look at how Choda's admonition to the Zen Sunni, we can look at it in terms of a couple of people within this chapter. And we could look at it in terms of Alia, but particularly it's interesting to think about Essos Payman and what happens to him, and also Javid and what's going to happen to him, and potentially also Alia's guard. Although I would say that this is Alia thinking about this and focusing on this, an attempt to win the inner battle. She tried to hold her entire awareness within Choda's admonition to the Zen Sunni. She's trying to hold her entire awareness on this. Leaving the ladder, one may fall upward. No. I think it's a huge clue, foreshadowing, and within this line, this statement, leaving the ladder, one may fall upward, is Alia's salvation. I believe later on, but it's not in this chapter. And so in this chapter, very much it will represent something else, I think. And perhaps the appearance of moving upwards was actually representing her spiritual fall and decline, if you like, you know. Let me just... Julian said, unrelated, I wonder if we may discuss Palam Basha at some point, the mathematician who attempted to lecture on Muad'Dib using quantum theory. I don't know if we reached him yet or if we passed him. I don't think so. That wasn't the thing in the previous time. And Julian, I said I was going to have I haven't got a chance to do it yet, but I was going to have a read at the theories of relativity just to check in on those, just to freshen my brain up on them. But yeah, I don't think we've got them yet, but I'll make a wee note. But I don't, at some point. Happy to, if you want to run with some stuff, Julian, chat away. I don't think we've hit him yet. Muad'Dib using quantum theory. I don't know if we've reached him yet or if we passed him. I don't know. I don't think we've met him yet. Ben Choda is an Indian curse, says Carl. It reminds me of how you fly in Hitchhiker's Guide. It sounds like a gateless gate. Sounds like the Taoist idea of polarity. Interesting. It's a bit mystical, isn't it? I took it to sort of go in this sense with the kind of Jacob's ladder, if you like, that you can rise to heaven, you can fall, that there's people going up and down on both sides of the ladder, this kind of thing. And one may rise downwards. As I said, sorry, one may fall upwards. It is a paradoxical statement, isn't it? The gateless gate. I'm going to scribble some of these down, guys. Hang on, I've got a space at the back of the book, this chapter, for stuff like this. And I will look at your suggestions for next time. Here we go, because I've written some space for this, actually, but not joking. There we go. The ladder, etc. Made some room for any suggestions that I'll have a wee look at. And if any of these ideas you'd like to explain, because I'm not too familiar with them, Taoist ideas of polarity. Polarity. Zen is based on Taoism. Zen, yeah, sounds like the Taoist idea. My main experience of the only thing I kind of know about Taoism, really, guys, is through reading Journey to the West and how they're kind of portrayed in it. Pretty much that's about it. you know. But I'm always interested in this kind of stuff. I said I'm going to have to try and don't know, maybe for Christmas, my wife always gets me secondhand books and stuff like this. But I'd like to kind of, I'm looking to get a good book or two on. Oddly enough, I've got a couple of books on Far Eastern mythology. I must dig it, but I'm looking to get a couple of books on North and South American, well, probably Central American as well, American mythology, because I know very little about it, and I'm kind of intrigued at the minute. So especially as I've got a fair knowledge of most kind of mythologies and things like that, but I'm really kind of zero, not much at all on the Americas. And I thought that was rather rum of me. It was a bit naff. Rum's probably not the best word there. Rumly would be more like it. The gateless gate, Taoist ideas of polarity and up cannot exist without down. Yes, the Tao Te Ching is very short. Yeah, I've never read it. Oh, I don't know. I've got things like the Book of Lord Chang here, and the book is The Way of the Sword, and a few things like that. I've got The Art of War, that kind of thing. I've always wanted. I've not read Confucius either. Actually, I've always wanted to read Confucius. Get into him. Let's write that down. Oh, the things, all the things in the world. There's just not enough time to read everything, is there? It's the saddest thing ever, I think. But yes, thank you very much, guys. The Popol Vuh is a Mayan mythology text. Popol Vuh. I must have a wee nosy sometime and chat to you about the cosmos and all the different things from all around the world that are mentioned in it. I always say it's the book that kind of, as much as I think Carl Sagan's Cosmos is the thing that turned a lot of people into scientists. I always say it kind of turned me into a classicist. Oddly enough, went somewhere else with it. But yeah, there's lots of stuff like that in it. Now let's see. So our ladder, but as I said, leaving the ladder one may fall upward. In terms of what ultimately happens to Alia later on, I think that's important, but not so much as in this chapter. It relates to this chapter, but I think it's a clue to her. That's my own opinion. I think it's a clue to her redemption, if you like, later on. Because what she's going through sounds pretty hellish, doesn't it? And the reference is bottomless pit. She'd opened the bottomless pit, faces arose out of it like a swarm of locusts until she came at last. If it was on the old beast, but just this constant clamor is what we're going to get a sense of, and this little sort of admonition to the Zen Sunni. So it's a warning, by the way. It's a warning. Leaving the ladder, one may fall upward. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Oh, we've got loads of stuff coming in here. Sagan's the man. Connor says, Alan Watts, Herbert's major Zen influence, is helping me enter Eastern thought. He got me into the Tao Te Ching, Diamond Sutra, and the Book of Changes. I read that a long time ago. That's the I Ching, isn't it? The Book of Change. Also, if I'm not mistaken, might be something else. That's like my university days in the 90s, Joe. Also reading Journey to the West right now, and it's so much fun. I'm dying to read it again. It is, isn't it? It's so funny. It's got a real sense of humor to it. I'll not spoil it, but that's one of my favorite bits. I think it's hilarious. One of the funniest things I've ever read is right near the end of that book. I'll say it. You can let me know when you finished it, Julie. Maybe and I'll let you know what it is. But it genuinely made whenever I was right near the end of Journey to the West, I had one of the best laughs of my life. Just laughed my head off. The Way of Zen. Raymond Smullyan's the Tao. Raymond Smulyan. The Tao is silent is good too. Smullion's an interesting fella. He is too. I use Smullion's stuff to teach Connor. I love Journey too. There's a book of Smullion's called what is the name of this book? It's it's a great title if you can't remember the title of the book. Monkey spends a lot of time in heaven. He does, yeah. I love Journey to this too. Well, it's pretty much the whole Havoc in Heaven's kind of like the prologue, pretty much to the Journey to the West. But I love that bit. It's very fun. I love the character. He's my favorite. I'm sure you've heard me say this before. He's my favorite hero of them all. But he's the best hero of them all, and his journey's a wee bit different, I think. But yeah. I've been in love. I love the Monkey King since the first time I set eyes on him. He's just great. He's a cheeky chappy. Here, actually, guys, funny enough, we've downloaded Monkey Magic, the TV series. So watch the first 3 episodes there with my wife because she's never seen it. So we're getting into that at the minute. That's really, really good. But I was watching a comedy video, and it was the actors who played Monkey and Pigsy. And they were doing it was like a cabaret sort of singing thing, not in character or anything. It's just as themselves, but they were hilarious. They were so funny. That's something on YouTube that they were doing. But yeah, the Journey to the West. If anybody's not read it, and if you love fantasy, go for that. You got a good 4-book series if you like, and you'll absolutely adore it. It reads like something like a Chinese kind of Lord of the Rings almost, except it's really funny. It's got a great heart, Yeah. So I've written just at the bottom of this, we reference to Jacob's Ladder, Genesis 28:11-19. Also, I believe that this was what will save Alia, spiritually redeem her. She will fall to her death, but in doing so, she kills the Baron again and saves her soul. Her personality is intact at this moment, and so she rises as she falls downward. That's for later on. But that's my little scribble there. Alia is a multitude. I've scribbled here too. But mornings glow along the cliffs of the shielded walls kept distracting her. Plantings of resilient fuzz grass filled the garden's pathways. When she looked away from the shielded wall, she saw the dew on the grass, the catch of all the moisture which had passed here in the night. It reflected her own passage as of a multitude. She is the sun and multitude are the she is the sun and the multitude are amongst the grass, is what I've scribbled there. If you like. So Alia, she's viewing herself in a sense. It reflected her own passage as of a multitude. I wasn't too sure about the language there. But that multitude made her giddy. Now, as we go, I suppose the feelings of giddiness that Alia has got here are going to be, I think, associated with the more giddy she gets, the more she's stepping away from reality, if that makes sense. That's kind of the impression I got. The multitude made her giddy. Each reflection carried the imprint of a face from the inner multitude. She tried to focus her mind on what the grass implied. The prescience of Sorry, that's wrong. I just made that up. That's my handwriting. The presence. Funny when your pen doesn't make a stroke. It looks like that's not too far a stretch. The presence of plentiful dew, not the prescience of plentiful dew. The presence of plentiful dew told her how far the ecological transformation had progressed on Arrakis. Therefore, it tells us too. The climate of these northern latitudes was growing warmer. Atmospheric carbon dioxide was on the increase. She reminded herself how many new hectares would be put under green plants in the coming year, and it required 37,000 cubic feet of water to irrigate just 1 hectare. Despite every attempt at mundane thoughts, she could not drive away the shark-like circling of others in her. She put her hands to her forehead and pressed. And we're going to get a number of, I suppose, water metaphors and similes with Alia in terms of how she's dealing with the multitude. I suppose they'll become like a tidal force, etc. This kind of thing. But they're seen as sharks, sea predators, circling all of those within her. And so it's the droplets of dew on the grass that she sees, this multitude of sparkling droplets, indicative of the vast ecological change that's been going on Arrakis, and that this is also a kind of metaphor for her and her journey as a person who's becoming a multitude, if you like. Each one of these drops is a bit like one of these faces within her mind, and it's reflecting back a face that she can see these people, that they have, I suppose, physical characteristics to their personalities, which is going to be a strange thing, I suppose. We'll have a look at it in a minute. But we're getting more info on the changes within Arrakis. We've got morning dew here. The climate of the northern latitudes is getting warmer. Atmospheric carbon dioxide is on the increase. And that more and more hectares are getting put under green plots. And the next year, the vast amount of water that's required to irrigate just 1 hectare. So it gives us a bit of a sense of the scope of what they're up to, and I suppose the results of the actions of the Atreides Empire and their ecological dream, if you like, along with the Fremen's dream and the Kynes family's dream. Julian says, Children of the God Emperor is where Frank begins to deal with the idea of whole and part, individual and total. The ancestral personas seem to act like a Greek chorus which conflicts with the individual. It does indeed. But I will jump ahead somewhere. I'll show it to you whenever we get there. But I have written in Greek chorus up ahead somewhere, Julian. But I agree, yes, indeed. It's also where we're starting to get another sense of, I suppose, as much as we're talking about Zen and things like that, we're starting to get an interest in some kind of bizarre, esoteric, and paranormal kind of stuff from Frank, I suppose. Some of which will lend itself heavily to the character of the God Emperor. In particular, when we're going to get to them quite shortly. Actually, we're going to get to the first of our creatures from demonology grimoires, and we've got 3 in this book, in this chapter. Sorry, we have 2 at the start, but essentially 2 characters, but a minor house as well, coming right up. Actually, despite every attempt at mundane thoughts, she could not drive away the shark-like circling of all those others within her. She put her hands to her temple and pressed. We get to see the strain on her. Pardon me. The temple guards had brought her a prisoner at sunset the previous day. So we're jumping back in time again. One Essus Payman, a dark little man, ostensibly in the pay of a house miner, the Nibiros, who traded in holy artifacts and small manufactured items for decoration. Actually, Payman was known to be a Chom spy, whose task was to assess the yearly spice crop. Fair enough, makes sense. Pardon me. I don't see why it would be that difficult to do that. Why you would need the spy to do it, probably. But excuse me. Now, Alia had been on the point of sending him into the dungeons when he protested loudly the injustice of the Atreides. That could have brought him an immediate sentence of death. So I'll do that again. That could have brought him an immediate sentence of death on the hanging tripod, but Alia had been caught by his boldness. So they're lovely people, the Atreides, mouth off, and you end up getting an immediate sentence of death on the hanging tripod. Not even Judge Dredd's that harsh, early Judge Dredd, But that's harsh. So he's protesting, he's being dragged off to the dungeons, the injustice of the Atreides, and this catches her attention. His boldness catches her attention. She'd spoken sternly from her throne of judgment, trying to frighten him into revealing more than he'd already told her inquisitors. Now, just before we go any further, I've got a whole a whole boomph on this. Right, here we go. Check it out. This other side. Oh, hang on. There, all this stuff here. Oh, there we go. So you can see some of that. Now, well, what we've got here, before we go any further, Payman and Neberus, okay, are characters, demons, kings or marquises of hell. So let's just have a wee quick discussion. They appear in Johann Wagner's. I don't know, how did I write his name down right? Johann Weyer, isn't it? Weyer. I think I've written it down again elsewhere here. Right, here we go. Payman is the spirit. Is a spirit. He's the king of hell, appearing in the grimoires such as. We have these grimoires where these characters appear. We have the Lesser Key of Solomon, the Pseudo Monarchia of Daemonum of Johann Weyer, the Livre de Esprit, the Liber Officiorum Spirituum, the Book of Abramelin, and the Grimoire of Pope Honorius, and also in the British Library Sloan manuscript MS3824. No relation. So Payman he's a second king of hell there, and you can check this out on Wikipedia. I think if you look up the Lesser Key of Solomon, for example, you'll see a whole bunch of these demons and their sigils and so on. So I drew them down here. So I just put CWiki for Payman. It's spelled Paimon. Now, Neberus is Neberus, who is a demon as well, and is a Marquis of Hell, and is associated also with Cerberus, because he has two appearances, but essentially he's a three-headed dog with a raven's lower body, I believe, but can appear as a raven. And it's Johann Weger equates this demon with Cerberus, by the way. Let me just double check. I've spelled that. That's my ink not making. Hang on. Yeah, Johann Weyer, sorry. That's it. I'll just copy that and paste it for you. There's a Dutch physician. Copy. Ping. Bosh. Bing. Dun, dun, dun. That's the guy we're talking about there. Johann Weyer, very briefly off Wikipedia, is a Dutch physician. He was among the first to publish a thorough treatise against the trials and persecution of people accused of witchcraft. His most influential work is De Prestigiis Daemonum et Incantationibus. I'll do that again. Incantationibus ac Beneficius, which is on the illusions of the demons and on spells and poisons from 1563. Yes, indeed, the deception. All sorts of books on demonology, etc., etc. I suppose these grimoires and stuff. And you've also got things like the Malleus Maleficarum, the Hammer of the Witches, isn't it? This kind of era. Excuse me, sorry. So all of those books there, all these characters appear in a whole bunch of these. They're grimoires. So very quickly again, the Lesser Key of Solomon, the Pseudo Monarchia Daemonum, that's by Johann Weyer, the Livre de Esprit, the Liber Officiorum Spirituum, the Book of Abramelin, the Grimoire of Pope Honorius, and the British Library Sloan manuscript MS3824. These are all grimoires on demonology, etc., this kind of thing. Payman is seen as an effeminate individual who wears a crown and rides a dromedary camel, by the way, and is associated with Azazel. I said Neberus is a Marquis of Hell, is a three-headed dog, and Weyer equates him with Cerberus. So these are their. I find this quite interesting. Anyway, I'll show you this up closely. These are the two individual demons' sigils at the bottom, and they are taken from the Book of Goetia of Solomon the King, published in 1904. Was it, or 1909? I thought that was 1904, possibly. So I was having, yeah, I think it is nine. Oh, that's my handwriting. Looks like 1909. Turn of the century. There's a lot of this esoteric stuff about. But there you go. So, and again, just talking about Alia's personal hell, if you like, the hell imagery that we're getting here. Swarms of locusts, biblical, swarms of locusts, bottomless pit, beast. We've had this ladder thing. And now we have a character who's named after a king of hell from a planet named after, from who works for a minor house who are named after a marquis of hell. And we're going to have another character at the end who is also from these grimoires. I'll let you know who it is now, actually. It's Ziarenka Valifor. And Valifor is also a Duke of Hell. And that's Alia's bodyguard, the Amazon, the chief of her Amazons. So, interesting character choice names and locations of where you'd find these things. And if you want to check some of that stuff out on Wikipedia, it's pretty interesting. So, she's basically, the injustice is about she's brought this guy. So that was quickly to explain the character name, Payman's character name. Oh, Essa, by the way, is another name for Jesus. But Essus, I couldn't actually get anything on Payman's first name. So it's a rather interesting little collection of names, to be honest with you, when you think about that. So they're saying, given the demonic names, perhaps this memory is part of her inner world and not an actual act as regent. Earlier, her inner Jessica told her to focus on law. And I suppose, but that's a good point, Cynthia. What I was thinking on in many ways is part of Alia's personal hell, and she'll articulate it later. Is that as much as we've been told there in this little quick biography that she managed to get her, she'd known a private personality. We're getting to the point where I think, will she be aware of? She's questioning if her thoughts even are her own. And I think that's a part of it as well, and that inner turmoil, and it could be that this memory is part of her inner world and not an actual act as regent. And I thought that interesting bit you're saying focus on law, and the idea of the Atreides focusing on law, we're particularly, I think we've often discussed about one of the things we've discussed about the whole Dune series is how would it end if Frank Herbert had been left to his own devices and managed to finish the thing, and that there's a strong suggestion that it would kind of head towards a legal conclusion of some kind, which also perfectly fits and mirrors the real life, I suppose, the real myths and stories of the Atreides, particularly, for example, and the founding myths of Athens. So that's kind of an interesting thing. But yeah, we've got a bunch of that. It's the law thing. I've always wondered about that, but we'll never know, will we? But why, of all things, focus on law? The other thing is, I suppose, is that there doesn't seem to be maternal support in that sense from sub-psycho Jessica, as I'll call her. So here we go. This is the interrogation, I suppose. This is the natter between Alia and Payman. This is Alia up first. Why are our spice crops of such interest to the Combine Hornet? She demanded. Tell us, and we may spare you. And I've written down that that's a stupid question, and it is politically in this universe a stupid question. And it's probably not for that. She's probably not asking for that reason. She's just going to poke at this guy here, basically, to see what's going on. Payman says, I only collect something for which there is a market. Payman said, I know what is done. In other words, you harvest crops, and I harvest info. It's funny that I nearly thought a crop there. It's not, is it? And for this pretty profit, you'd interfere with our royal plans? Alia demanded. Royalty never considers what that we might have plans too, he countered. Touche. Alia, captivated by his desperate audacity, said, Essus Payman, will you work for me? At this, a grin whitened his dark face, and he said, You are about to obliterate me without a qualm. What is my new value that you should suddenly make a market for it? You've a simple and practical value, she said. You're bold, and you're for hire to the highest bidder. I can bid higher than any other in the Empire. And I've written next to this that this is not how the Atreides recruit their people. And that if this is how they recruit their people, then how the Atreides recruit their people has changed. There is no, it used to be always based on the mutual hatred of the Harkonnens, this kind of thing, that they sought out people with, mutual interests, if you like. Whereas this is buying someone. So Essus Payman, let's see, at which he named. So I can outbid basically anybody, is what she's saying. I'm the highest bidder. When you want to work for me? At which he named a remarkable sum, which he required for his services, but laughed and countered with a figure. But Alia laughed and countered with a figure she considered more reasonable and undoubtedly far more than he'd ever before received. She added, and of course, I throw in the gift of your life, upon which I presume you place an even more inordinate value. The bargain, Payman cried, and at a signal from Alia was led away by her priestly master of appointments, Zyranko Javid. Now I've got a problem with this. I need your help here, folks, to see what the problem is. But the problem I'd really like to know is, do you have the word Zyranko in front of the word Javid there in your copies of the text? Let me see. Now, this is note 24 for me. Let me just get it in the book here, folks. So it's a bargain, Payman cried. It's page 58 for me on this copy. Let's go page 58 into 59. A bargain, Payman cried, and the signal from Alia was led away by her priestly master of appointments, Zyranko Javid. Now, I think that's a misprint. I think that's an extra word that's been stuck in there. And it's Zyranko, and I've had to make a wee note here to say that see Zyranka Valafor. So the character at the end of the chapter that who also has a demon's name is Zyranka, the same word with an A instead of an O. And I did etymological work on this Zyranka. It's from the Polish. It's a diminutive form of Zyrono, which is a grain, if you like. But if both of them have this word put in front of them, it would seem to be a title that's in male form for Javid and a title that's in male form for Valafor. However, we're told that Zyranka Valafor, chief of Alia's guardian Amazons, in an attempt to get more familiar and kind of bring Zyranka Valafor into Alia's fold, she refers to her as Zia, which is like a nickname. And so what we've got is, I'm a bit curious about this. I think it's an accidental misprint of putting that in front of Javid's name. And I'm not 100% sure, but it's definitely the Valafor's first name. It's just one of those. Bear with me a second. See if I can. I'm going to look something up here. Let's see if I can get a copy of the book up on the screen here and do a wee quick search. Right, there we go. Children of Dune. Right, and he's Javid, isn't he? Let's find Javid. Okay. Right, one was called Javid. Right, bear with me a wee second, folks. Javid, where do you come from? Javid, what's your name? Javid. So I'm just running through every instance of the guy's name here. About left, Javid, Oh, right, yeah, I think this, bear with me a wee second, folks, just to catch up with this in this electronic copy. Because I think this might be, no, right, okay. No, I have him as Zyrenko Javid in this copy as well. So I'm just wondering about that. Is it a mistake? I don't get it at all. Doesn't make any sense to me. So your copy also has Zyrenko Javid. Same here. Yeah. It's not a thing to go nuts about, I suppose. The suggestion is here that would be his first name. If it was meant to be a title, then it wouldn't make sense because it doesn't apply to her, the Amazon, as we get to her. And yet his title is Master of Appointments, and everywhere else prior to this, he's referred to as Javid. And after this, he's referred to as Javid. So we'll not see, it's one of those things. But we hit them. But I think it's a publishing error. Unless anybody's got any other ideas about it, maybe we'll find out a little bit more about it. But I've kind of went, what's going on? And why is he Zyrenko Javid? But then it was, as I said, from then on we referred to him as Javid, and then we hit Zyrenka Valafor. And the Zyrenka is definitely Valafor's first name. Which is, again, maybe doesn't make sense because we're used to hearing about Fremen having only one name. So it must mean is it some sort of title? Zyrenko for him, and I don't know. It's confused me. And I'll leave that open for you guys, maybe if anybody wants to check it out or anyone has any ideas on it. But you'll see what I mean when we get. So I did the etymology on the word, and I've written here next to Zyrenko Javid, see Zyrenka Valafor at the end of the chapter. It's a Polish word in diminutive form of ziarno, which means a grain, if you like. Anyway. So less than an hour later there was a few other I jumped ahead there. I'm going to jump back because there were comments there beforehand, folks. It looks like I missed them. So rather than pile on, let's get through them before we let's see. Right. Just get a wee drink. Okay, I'll run from here. Julian saying Children and the God Emperors, where Frank begins to deal with the idea of the whole and the part, individual and total. The ancestral personas seem to act like a Greek chorus, which conflicts with the individual. Given the volatility of oxygen, the lack of animal life, wouldn't the atmosphere become explosive? As someone, who knows? I'm conscious in the Orphic tripod. I do love a good grimoire. I haven't read about stuff like that since I was in my teens. If you know what I mean, I was kind of into all that sort of stuff, just reading Aleister Crowley and all of them guys, magic and stuff. But they're interesting, I suppose. So I'm trying to draw the little demonic, the sigils of the two different creatures. It took me a wee. They're very carefully done. They're interesting. It's a very systemic thing, isn't it? It's almost like I don't know, like a 16th century or 15th century attempt to create a system of demons for a role play game or something. Has the same kind of mind behind it. Jason, oh no, hereditary flashbacks with Payman. And Johan Weyer, oh yeah, right, that was me typing that in. Sorry, just to catch it. So somebody was saying, given the demonic names, perhaps the memory is part of her inner world and not an actual act, as Regent earlier, her inner Jessica told her to focus on law. Connor saying it's getting rather Jungian. um, and Connor saying, you think that a Bene Gesserit and other memory would protect against abomination? Well, getting to that, I think a wee bit that the sense is that there's some people there that are trying to protect her, but we're not told who. You'd think at the very least, the people that would be in Alia's other memory, at the very least, her mother's there who's alive still, but her father would be there, and you kind of wonder what he would be doing here. And Cynthia said my copy has Zeranko Javid as well. That's same. I don't know what you think about that word. In that place, maybe something will reveal itself. That perhaps it's a rank or something, or a position within Alia's particular cult, if you like. But one is actually a Fremen from Jacurutu and her priesthood, if you like, priestly master of appointments. So he's a priest, and then the other one that we're going to come to is an Amazon guard who's a Fremen, so a soldier basically. Where are we now? A bargain, yes indeed. Okay, less than an hour later, as Alia prepared to leave the judgment hall, Javid came hurrying to report that Payman had been overheard to mutter the hateful lines from the Orange Catholic Bible, Maleficus non pateris viver, which is Exodus 22:18. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live, as Alia translated for us there. Hang on very quickly. Did I just check that I had got all those comments read there? I hope I did. If I ever miss a comment, folks, let me know. It happens occasionally, but it's not deliberate. Coincidence happens in real life a lot. Maybe Frank was adding realism. Yeah, I think I definitely got a sense of that with and it's an interesting thing to say, to add realism to a topic like this that we're looking at, because it's pretty unrealistic, isn't it? Coincidence, but I thought that he did very well in the previous chapter with Ganima and Jessica. The way they put the barriers up and then they put the barriers down and they kind of went up again, that kind of thing. That they weren't perfect in their actions, So this is Payman's crime here. Maleficus non pateris viver. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. So that was her gratitude. That's a thing that's often said about the Bene Gesserit, isn't it? So that was her gratitude. He was one of those who plotted against her very life. There's your paranoia for you. In a flash of rage, such as she'd never before experienced, she ordered Payman's immediate execution, sending his body to the temple death still, where his water at least would be of some value in the priestly coffers. And of course, at this point, and again, as I make my notes without moving on as I go, I'd written down, did he do it, or did Javid set him up? And of course, that's going to be part of Alia's thinking as we go ahead here. And there we go. He's the only skull of the chapter. There he is. Coming in a bit closer. There we go. And there's SS Payman. Innocent or that stupid is what I've written. And was he killed by Alia and Javid? So that's his little what he is. So innocent or was he that stupid? Did he really say that? Why would he? Why would he be that stupid? Here's the biggest salary you've ever seen in your life. Come and work for me. Okay. And I won't kill you. I love you. Would be my response. All praise Alia. All hail Alia. Isn't she magnificent? What a wonderful benefactor. I'm not working for those guild suckers anymore. Screw that. That would be my attitude. And it's most likely that he's being bumped off here by Javid. Of course, we're going to find out, I'm sure, as we go. That's kind of I like the fact that I don't know. And there we go. Poor old SS Payman. Execution off to the temple death still where something particularly gruesome, isn't it? Like, the whole thing is quite gruesome in a funny kind of way. As especially when there's not really the need to harvest anybody's water from their bodies anymore, I suppose. But yes, it's not a whatever. Or is his death in the death still? Is that a form of execution itself? What got me wondering there. And all night long, Payman's dark face haunted her. She tried all of her tricks against the persistent accusing image, reciting the Buji from the Fremen Book of Krios. Nothing occurs, nothing occurs. And again, I suppose another paradoxical statement here. We'll talk about it in a second here, folks. But Payman, again, get ready for this one. But Payman took her through a wearing night into this giddy new day, where she could see that his face had joined those in the jeweled reflection from the dew. I've written next to that, he can't be another memory. So this is guilt, and she's sort of seeing his face as being part of the droplets of the dew, almost as part of the, the multitude, if you like. So Buji, I've got a few different languages for this one, folks. What we're talking again is she's reciting the Buji from the Fremen Book of Krios. So Buji, I've got in Japanese means is one word: safety, security, peace, or quietness. In Mandarin Chinese, Buji is to disregard. I've also got in Turkish from the French, Buji is a spark plug. So I don't think it's probably that one. Krios, by the way, is Krios. Krios is Krios here, who is one of the Titans from Greek mythology. And he would be a son of Uranus and Gaia. Krios is the ancient Greek word for ram. Interestingly enough, he'd be one of the inmates in Tartarus. As I often like to point out, they're not all there. Let me see. Anything interesting about him? He's a kind of almost like a shoe-in titan, if you like. How does that make sense? He's the father of Atreides, Pallas, and Perses, and that therefore he's the grandfather of Hecate. Nothing occurs. Nothing occurs. So in that sense, what I meant by a shoe-in, by the way, is you'll find him in. You'll find him probably in. Oh, you will find him. Where do you find him? Oh God, I should have wrote this down. Hesiod's Theogony. You'll find him in there with a list of all the sort of Theogony is kind of the creation of all the different beings, the gods and the demigods and the titans and stuff like that by Hesiod. It's contemporary in terms of time of Homer. It's a good read. It's a very short read, by the way. So other people tell me about some other short books. If anybody wants to check it out, it's a great book if you're into Greek mythology. It's very thin, usually comes together with another book by Hesiod called Works and Days, which is arguably one of the first books on ecology, in the proper sense of the word. So, the other thing is, I suppose, I'm not too sure if the female guard that we're going to encounter here is the same female guard later on. Is this Zia? So there we go. And I just thought that's an interesting look at the Fremen Book of Krios. That's the Fremen associated with the Greek myth, as opposed to an Arabic one or something like that, for example. Right, so we've got a female guard called her to breakfast from the roof door behind a low hedge of mimosa. Alia sighed. She felt small choice between hells. The outcry within her mind or the outcry from her attendants, all were pointless voices, but persisted in their demands, hourglass noises that she would like to silence with the edge of a knife. Now, interestingly enough, the plant that keeps popping up here is the mimosa. And the mimosa gets its name from the Greek word mimos, which means to mimic, where we get mimesis from. And I think mimesis is kind of an important thing within the Dune series, particularly when we look at things like the Twi'leks, the face dancers. But we're going to get a sense of a discussion of mimesis in a funny kind of way from the Baron later on. It's an awareness of a limitation, I think, of the Baron being in control of Alia's body. If you see what I mean, we'll have a wee chat about it when we get to it. But it's this plant in particular, just in that sense, it gets its name. I think there's over about 600 species of mimosa, and it gets its name from the Greek word to mimic. Right, small choice between hells. That's why I kind of called this chapter. I think I called it the Katabasis of Alia Atreides, and that we're seeing her in her personal hells here, and a bit of a descent into them. So the outcry within her mind, or the outcry from her attendants, all were pointless voices, but persisted in their demands. Hourglass noises that she would like to silence with the edge of the knife. Got one noise pouring through the glass. If I turn it upside down to silence it, down it goes, but another one starts. That's where I kind of got that with that metaphor, if you like. Flip it over and it all starts again. No peace. And I think the idea of silencing it with the edge of the knife is that Fremen idea of cutting something off and it being done, if you know what I mean. Ignoring the guard, Alia stared across the roof garden towards the shield wall. A Bahada had left its broad outwash like a detrital fan upon the sheltered floor of her domain. The delta of sand spread out before her gaze, outlined by the morning sun. I've done a few kind of sort of sun type visage things like this here for this book, this chapter. A Bahada here is from Bayada, I believe, or Bajada. I think it's Bayada, which is a Spanish word. And a Bayada is a broad slope of alluvial material collected at the foot of an escarpment. There we go. Again, still educating us in this kind of stuff, as old Frank. The delta sand spread out before her gaze, outlined by the morning sun. And it came to her that an uninitiated eye might see that broad fan as evidence of a river's flow, but it was no more than the place where her brother had shattered the shield wall, with the Atreides family atomics opening a path from the desert for the sandworms which had carried his Fremen troops to shocking victory over his imperial predecessor, Shaddam IV. Bloody hell. He could have really done with a comma or a semicolon in there. And wanting to come up for air as I read that. I have this problem sometimes when I write for people, all right? Is that reading something into yourself is one thing, but if someone has to sing or perform or read it out loud, they need to come up for air. Factoring in air is something I'm very bad at. I can write pretty good words and get a tune going, tend to be quite fast, and forget that whoever's singing it has to breathe. Dear, oh dear. But yes, indeed. So you might be mistaken for looking at this and seeing a riverbed or something like that, but no, this is where Paul nuked the shield wall, and hey, in came all the worms. Remembering this victory, now we're told a broad quannet flowed with water on the shield wall flowed with water on the shield wall's far side to block off sandworm intrusions. Sandworms would not cross open water. It poisoned them. Let me get Alia's thoughts here. Would that I had such a barrier within my mind, she thought. So again, we've got this looking at the Jew now. She's looking out across, pardon me, the shield wall, this memory coming forward, the barrier that's been created by the quannet. Wish I had a barrier like that as well. To block off the multitude. The thought increased her giddy sensation of being separated from reality. Pardon me, more giddiness, and I think that's the idea that the more giddy she gets, the more separated she is from reality. Sandworms, sandworms. Her memory presented a collection of sandworm images. Mighty Shai-Hulud, the demiurge of the Fremen, deadly beast of the desert's depths, whose outpourings included the priceless spice. How odd it was, this sandworm, to grow from a flat and leathery sand trout, she thought. They were like the flocking multitude within her awareness. So gone straight to that simile. The sand trout, when linked edge to edge against the planet's bedrock, formed living cisterns. They held back the water that their sandworm vectors might live. Alia could feel the analogy. Some of those others within her mind held back dangerous forces which could destroy her. And I've written next to that who. We've got Shai-Hulud, by the way, the demiurge of the Fremen. The demiurge is the creator and maintainer, I think, of the universe in Gnosticism. Comes from the Greek word demiurgus, which is in Greek is a craftsman or an artisan or someone who produces stuff, basically, I think. My understanding is the term first turns up in Plato's Timaeus. It's the idea that the demiurgus is this kind of creature, but it's someone who's separate from the creator. Now, see Wiki, because we're going into a whole realm of stuff. Now, this is also going to take us towards the God Emperor. If you type I've just typed demiurge into Google, just the word, and what I've got in front of me now, I must see if I can get this other studio thing set up. But if you do this yourself, what I've got in front of me is a dictionary definition of demiurge, and on the right I have the pictures. And what you will see, if you're looking at the same thing I am, is you will see an Abraxas coin with something that basically looks exactly like the God Emperor. You'll see the one I'm looking at has got a crescent moon and a star. You'll see the worm serpent body, head of a lion, the crown, etc., etc. And that is Abraxas, and it's pretty much the closest analog you'll get to the God Emperor himself. So just the dictionary definition here, it says a being responsible for the creation of the universe in Platonic philosophy, the maker or creator of the world. In Gnosticism and other theological systems, a heavenly being subordinate to the supreme being that is considered to be the controller of the material world and antagonistic to all that is purely spiritual. Now, I would recommend generally, if you don't know much about the demiurge, and I'm no expert, but Wikipedia would probably have a good wee sort of vector on it. And just to show you that on all sorts of things, just to read you from the Wikipedia stub, it says in the just to get how many different things this is a part of, I suppose, in the Platonic, Neo-Pythagorean, Middle Platonic, and Neoplatonic schools of philosophy, the demiurge, sometimes spelled as demiurge, is an artisan-like figure responsible for fashioning and maintaining the physical universe. The Gnostics adopted the term demiurge, although a fashioner of the demiurge is not necessarily the same as the creator figure in a monotheistic sense, because the demiurge itself and the material form for which the demiurge fashions the universe are both considered consequences of something else. Depending on the system, they may be considered either uncreated and eternal or the product of some other entity. What have we got here? It says, here you go. The word demiurge is an English word derived from demiurgus. Hang on. It's not the same spelling I have, is it? Where'd you go? No, it's not. No. Oh, I've got the Greek in here. Okay, there it is. Sorry, down below. Sorry, I should have read on, shouldn't I? A Latinized form of the Greek demiurgos. There we are. It's originally a common noun meaning craftsman or artisan, but gradually came to mean producer or eventually creator. The philosophical usage in the proper noun derived from Plato's Timaeus, written around 360 BC, where the demiurge is presented as the creator of the universe. There's a whole lot more stuff there, going all the way down, I suppose, and have a good look, folks, and then into Gnosticism. And that's really the kind of idea that we're going to get the Abraxas from, I think, it's eventually. As I said, we've got some of these kind of ideas and kind of, hocus pocus stuff that you get turning up later, ologists and all that sort of thing. But it's kind of interesting. The idea of Abraxas is kind of interesting as well. But as I said, what we're starting to see is, I suppose, in terms of character names and source material and things like this, and little hints and drops and stuff, we're starting to kind of get the sense some of the more esoteric ideas of where we're going to get to with the God Emperor. And yes, indeed. And I don't know if you can see this, but the mighty Shai Hulud, the demiurge of the Fremen. I don't know if you can see my worm. There you go. It's got this is written on it. There you go. Goodness gracious. So all sorts of things, and yeah, our reading. If we were to follow up everything in this, our reading could take us really all over the place, couldn't it? But yeah, again, a little bit more about the sandworms and how they operate and how they basically did what they did to the planet, if you like. I'll just catch up with your comments actually quickly, folks. Let me see. Guild suckers. Let me see. Something earlier, Alia perceived faces. Now she's burdened by voices. The memory shades are influencing more of her sensory world. And Juliet's saying, abominations make me ask where their identity comes from. Where did Alia, Leto, and Gani begin? Is identity determined by the ancestral, cultural, and ecological realities? Are the abominations simply not? Are they conglomerations of memories which, in Leto Haram's case, choose to conglom together and go by a name? I missed the Creus and Demiurge and the Greco-Dune research. Oh, not to worry. There's tons, Juliet. Tons. I'm finding stuff here. Absolute tons of it. We've got Agamemnon's popping up in a minute for God's Jensen, I think that as far as the story is concerned, identity is genetics plus experience. Yeah. It's interesting actually whenever we think about it. If we can go all the way to the end of Dune, what characters are surviving there, in the sense that characters may come back and stuff. And again, we've got a version of the Baron walking about here, as we've pointed out, based on what we've been told about other memory within this chapter. Now we know. There's no reason why we can't have three versions of the Baron hanging around at the minute, are trying to take control. Connor said, did Frank know Philip K. Dick? Bless the maker and his water. I don't know, Connor. I don't think. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to say that I don't really know. I don't think that Frank Herbert would have moved in the circles that Philip K. Dick did, especially just in terms of drugs. But a lot of these science fiction writers encountered each other, at conventions and book signings and things like that. There seemed to be certain sort of little communities within them, There were some problems with a few of them. Some of them were shagging each other's wives and things. I'll tell you what, bear with me a second. We could find out pretty quickly, couldn't we? Because Philip K. Dick is science fiction royalty. But he's a man that you can sort of take his drugs experiences as being quite valid, Let's just have a wee look, see if there's any mention of him in here. I'm just having a wee quick check to see if there's a name drop in Brian Herbert's book about his dad, but I don't see anything here, Frank Herbert never met, what do you call him? John Wood Campbell Jr. either, for example. I love Philip K. Dick. I absolutely love him. I think I was telling you about that speech it's on from Philip K. Dick in France. My wife was watching it, and just in terms of his how he spoke and his articulation and stuff, she's wow, that's what got her. She decided to read one of his books after listening to him talk, and just asked me to pick one. So I gave her Ubik, and she loved it. If anybody's not read Ubik, read it. It's great. uh, but yeah, Julian saying, sure, Carlos, the meeting point between memory and the new precedent and the immediate. Connor saying Valis has a lot of Gnosticism, and yeah, it's Valis is goodness. I mean, that would be a thing to do. We sort of set of programs on, wouldn't it? That there's that trilogy really that with Valis and the Divine Invasion. And is it the other one? Sort of is it stuff that's in the Transmigration of Timothy Archer? I think makes them up. I'm not too sure. But yeah, the whole pink light stuff, and it's just those are two kind of cookie books, and they go together, you know. The French speech was odd with the guy translating every sentence. Connor, there's a version of it where all of that's out and on YouTube, and it's literally all the because the guy's translating, and it's just all of his answers pieced together, so it just looks like one talk. And that's the version of it that we watched. So I'd seen it before with the French in it. You know, what's that making me think? Well, I was watching a bit of. I managed to finish the second Lensman book there, and I'm on to Galactic Patrol. But what else? I was watching a bit of Space Adventure Cobra the other day. I don't know if anybody's ever seen that. It's a very odd kind of French-Japanese thing, which I really like. It's on YouTube. First time I've watched all of Space Adventure Cobra. There's a kind of a movie version of it, but I had to watch it in French. The first time with Japanese subtitles and the assistance of an Alsatian friend, if you like. So you know, I did my best to work out the French myself, and he helped me out where I had problems, and that's how I watched the whole thing. It was great, loved it. Well, I've drifted off there, folks. Valis has a lot of Gnosticism, but the French speech was of the guy translating every sentence. Yeah, there is a version of that where all the questions and stuff have been pulled out. It's just one continuous. It seems like a continuous speech, if you like. The Empire never ended. Looks like once upon a time, space. Now, where are we, folks? I've caught up with your comments. Good stuff. But yeah, I'll tell you what. Some night, folks, we'll get a wee. I'll do a wee sci-fi night, and we'll maybe focus on a particular author or something like. But Philip K. Dick, somebody we could talk about all night long, I think, and have no real. I'll have to bring so many books, but I'll absolutely adore him. You know, yeah. Still a bit, you know, but at the same time, whenever you watch that speech, my wife is going, "Wow, isn't he so intelligent?" I'm going, "Yes, he is, but he's also." You know, a man with severe drug problems and mental health issues as well. You know, don't take everything he says. Take what he says with a pinch of salt. You know, but he is fascinating to listen to. Let's see. Pardon me. So again, let's see. Right. Why? So there's some others within the mind held back dangerous forces which could destroy her. We're hopefully that these would be benign personalities that are, you know, trying to protect Alia, I suppose. Again, the guard called her to breakfast, a note of impatience apparent. Okay. Angrily, Alia turned, waved a dismissal signal. The guard obeyed, but the roof door slammed. Oh, it's a bit cheeky for a guard, isn't it? So at the sound of the slamming door, Alia felt herself caught by everything she had attempted to deny. So here it is. I think this is really the part of it. The other lives welled up within her like a hideous tide. Excuse me. And again, tide, if you like, a water term, if you like. Not necessarily, I suppose. Each demanding life pressed its face against her vision centers, a cloud of faces. Some presented mange-spotted skin, others were callous and full of sooty shadows. There were mouths like moist lozenges. Uh, the pressure of the swarm washed over her in a current which demanded that she float free and plunge into them, step off the ladder, if you like. And no, she whispered, no, no, no. She's still fighting. She would have collapsed onto the path but for a bench beside her, which accepted her sagging body. She tried to sit, could not, stretched out on the cold plasteel, still whispering denial. No, 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 no. The tide continued to rise within her, a tide, and she felt attuned to the slightest show of attention, aware of the risk. Me, no, me. And she knew that if she once gave her attention, just once, gave it completely, she would be lost. To behold one face out of the multitude and follow the voice of that face would be to held by that egocentrism which shared her existence. Prescience does this too, a voice whispered. And so, this is exactly what's about to happen here. She covered her ears with her hands, thinking, I'm not prescient. The trance doesn't work for me. But the voice persisted. It might work if you had help. No, no, she whispered. Other voices wove around her mind. I, Agamemnon, your ancestor, demand audience. So here we have the first appearance of Agamemnon, son of Atreus, the king of Mycenae and the Dune series. Leader of the Achaeans during the Trojan War, killed by Aegisthus and Clytemnestra, etc., etc. We've had a good old chat about him. This is the ancestor of the Atreides. He should be there. He's one of the sons of Atreus. Again, the family line are called the Pelopids, after Pelops, but their actual original ancestor is Tantalus himself. So there we go. This is, and if that is the ancestor of the Atreides, of Alia Atreides, then that answers the question: are they the same family? Is this the same genetic line all the way back to that of this family of the Trojan War? And the answer is yes. So Agamemnon, your ancestor, demand audience. I thought Agamemnon would be a definitely up for a go with the Baron, if you see what I mean. I think he's a particular personality, isn't he? And arguably one of the personalities you might expect to come to the fore. This is the Greek High King, if you like, for want of a better term, but he's the war leader of the Greeks in the Trojan War. And he's he's not a nice guy. I thought he's a nasty piece of work. And in terms of what we were talking about, I suppose the personalities that Leto ultimately chooses, Agamemnon might have not been a bad choice either, but he's quite badly flawed. And likes to think of himself in terms of, sort of, he commits godly hubris, if you like, more than once. I am Agamemnon, your ancestor, demand audience. No, no. She pressed her hands against her ears until the flesh answered with her pain. And we have this kind of a battle with Alia trying to kind of fight almost in a physical way against the internal harm that's being caused to her. The hands and the eyes and this kind of thing. She's having a physical reaction. It's caused her to pretty much collapse here. And it's having a physical effect on her. An insane crackle within her head asked, what has become of Ovid? Simple. He's John Bartlett's Ibid. Okay. There's all sorts here. Here we go. There he is. Right. Ovid is Publius Ovidius Naso, also known as Ovid. Have I got his dates there? I do. He's born the 20th of March, 43 BC, and he died approximately 1718 AD. Or Ovid, a poet from he's a contemporary of people like Virgil and Horace. and he spent the last 10 years of his life in exile. And his love poems, etc., etc. Um, John Bartlett, and I had to look this guy up. I'd not heard of him. Oddly enough, though, I do own a book of quotations, and I've had it since I was a kid. But it's what is it? I think it's quite a good wee one. I quite enjoy it. What is it? There we go. I wonder what it is. Actually, I'm not too sure. Bear with me a second. Oh, it's an Oxford one. Yeah, it's an Oxford book of quotations. So I didn't know who John was, but I checked him out. This makes sense. So he's born 14th of June 1820 to the 3rd of December 1905. He's author, publisher, and editor of Bartlett's Familiar Quotations, which first appeared in 1855 and is still going today, apparently. The last edition coming out in 2022 would be its 19th edition. So it's just simply put a very, very famous book on quotations that's still in print. What has become of Ovid? Simple. He's John Bartlett's Ibid. Ibid is an abbreviation of ibedum, which is the Latin word, which means to be in the same place. So in academia, we use it whenever referencing, etc. If I've already written a reference once, I'll just use ibid as to refer to it again. So use it to save space in academic work, footnotes, references, stuff like that. Is used basically when a quoted work which has appeared prior in the text, if that makes sense. So Ovid basically is just a footnote. His work is just a footnote. He's just a quote, really, in Bartlett's book of quotations, and that's how we would possibly remember him. And that this is some deranged person, I think, an insane crackle within her head asked this question. What's become of Ovid? Simple. And they answer the question, don't they? He's John Bartlett's Ibid and shouting about it. Possibly a deranged classicist. Someone angry that they don't remember Ovid more than they would remember John Bartlett's book. I think that's the idea. Or that you would read John Bartlett's book for the quotes by Ovid rather than bothering to buy the Ovid, Ovid himself, his works. I wonder what you think. It's definitely a bit random, isn't it? Lovecraft has a fun story called Ibid. Oh, I don't think I've read that. Let's check it out. Oh, hang on. I should move that somewhere else. Smoke. It's probably not a good idea. Let me see. I should open a window a wee bit in here, folks. Actually, bear with me a wee second. What's that? I usually have the ashtray behind the screen. That's a bit better. Julian said, I think Leto learns a lot by living Agamemnon's life. I think a lot of the discourse about gender and war and God Emperor comes from him. Yeah. Oh, yes, indeed. The God Emperor's, I can't wait to sort of pick apart his philosophy. That's going to be fun, So this, again, you can sort of get the sense of this random stuff floating into her mind here. The names were meaningless in her extremity. It's sad to think that they maybe not know who Ovid is in the 20,000 years in the future or so. She wanted to scream against them and against all the other voices, but could not find her own voice. It's the sense of losing yourself, I think. Her guards, sent back to the roof by senior attendants, peered once more from the doorway by the mimosa, saw Alia on the bench, spoke to a companion. She's resting. You noted that she didn't sleep well last night. It is good for her to take the Zaha, the morning siesta. What's this? Okay, so we've got our brand new Dune drug here, and I've given it a little. There we go. I'm not too sure what form it's going to come. So I've got a pill, a cup of something, and something to smoke. Now, Zaha, if my understanding, is a word that has both Hebrew and Arabic roots. And in Hebrew, if I'm not mistaken, it means clear, pure, to shine, and flower. Now, again, with Arabic, I have meanings of bright, shine, like this one, traveling over a dusty sky. That's good. Satisfied, peaceable, peaceful, to shine or to be radiant. So something that brightens up your day, I guess. It's good for to take the Zaha, the morning siesta, but it suggests more like that it's made something that they think that she's possibly taken a sleeping drug here, that she's lying. Because they see her on the bench and think, oh, she's had a bit of that, I get that sense, but this is another new drug for us. There we go. Alia did not hear her guard. Her awareness was caught by shrieks of singing, and the voices, merry old birds are we, hurrah. The voices echoed against the inside of her skull, and she thought, I'm going insane. I'm losing my mind. And I thought actually that he might have had a couple of exclamation marks there, but alas, no. I'm going insane. I'm losing my mind. The merry old birds are we, hurrah. I'm not too sure about that. I was wondering if it's a reference perhaps to the Merry Wives of Windsor or something like that. Who the birds are, I have no idea. If anybody's got any suggestions, I'm totally open to them. And I can't really comment about the Merry Wives of Windsor because I've never read it. It's a Shakespeare play I haven't read. Merry old birds, merry old wives, or we are something. That's what made me think of it. But I don't know if anyone's got any ideas on that one. Excuse me. Let's see. So they say, I'm reminded of the story title, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream by Harlan Ellison, haunting work. I was just thinking about that last night, Cynthia. I'm trying to get like a text copy of it. Because I've just been thinking about just sort of different particular books and their treatment of artificial intelligence, particular stories, But this is an AI that has, what is it, mankind's wiped out and it's got a few slaves left, this kind of thing, But yes, indeed, I was just thinking about that story the other day. I was having a listen to All You Zombies again the other day, and I had a run through Podkin of Mars by Heinlein as well, which was interesting. I have to listen to it again. What else, I suppose? Yeah, I just finished, just in terms of reading science fiction, I'm watching a TV show at the minute called Pluto, which is a Japanese anime. Has to do Astro Boy, I think. But just finished First Lensman, which was pretty good. I have to say the pace of these books is quite interesting. But I've just started Galactic Patrol, which is I think originally the first story, But it's interesting to see how much these are influential on things like Dune and particularly writers like Heinlein and stuff like that, But we're kind of having a bit of a Heinlein renaissance around here as well. But yeah, there's a bunch of books. I've just been thinking I've got a bunch of Harlan stuff that I wouldn't mind having a wee nosy at, And Connor said you'll love Galactic Patrol. Just started it, just a few pages in. Looking forward to it, But I kind of tore through the end of First Landsman and I enjoyed it. It's interesting. It's very interesting indeed. I'm starting to formulate some opinions on it, but I need to get through the whole lot of it. But it's that very much the American engineer paradigm, if you like, and it's like the Edisonian on steroids. It's an en masse Edisonians on steroids, and it's a very interesting. But at the same time, the mind and the way that the ideas of the spaceships and the space and the battles and how things work in it, it's great to read. There's a heck of an imagination there, But it's a bit of it's got that kind of Doc Savage kind of thing too. It's a bit of an all boys club, isn't it? Not totally, but but I've been hinted at that there might be a female lensman at some point. But in many ways, you can look at the Lensman as a bit of a parallel to maybe like the Bene Gesserit and things like that. That they're a kind of all male organization, but they're kind of in the same mode. It's not to do with bloodlines and stuff, although I suppose it actually is. That's the thing, isn't it? There's the bloodline manipulation within the Lensman stories as well. Yeah, and I suppose manipulators of all the things, and two different factions, these super beings that It's it's very interesting. I am enjoying it. It's really good. It's great old fashioned science fiction. Um, and I love that stuff. I lap it up. It's great. So yes, indeed, I think I will enjoy. I was thinking of Dune when I read Lensman. It's unstoppable. Dune is a rebuff to Lensman. To see more parallels. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've been aware of the Lensman series, if that makes sense. And I'd seen there was a Japanese anime of one of them. I think it was Children of the Lens a long time ago. And I said I've had these books sitting here, so I've kind of flicked through them, but I wouldn't. I got this gigantic sitting there on the bookshelf, this gigantic copy of all the Lensman ones. But I have a couple. I've had these two, or book 2 and 3, on these are easier to read, and then I'm going to hit back to the gigantic edition, But definitely, I can see stuff from Lensman in all sorts of things, and it's always good to broaden your science fiction knowledge and see what things influence, and it's an absolute influence on loads of stuff, I think. But so I can't wait to get these 2 books that I've read are written at the end, so I'm kind of really looking forward to getting that sense of 1930s. I think, isn't it? Originally, just that sense. 1937. Yeah, science got sort of Star Warsy type stuff from 1937. Fantastic. But I've been really getting into that kind of era lately. It's something I'm very, very fond of. Is all that kind of 30s and 40s, sci-fi and stuff like that from back then. Actually, I love it all. I love the 50s and 60s stuff, and you know, um, but there's a particular feel to it and all that. The Buck Rogers, the Flash Gordons, these kind of things. I just love it. Absolutely love it. Now let's see. Merry Old Birds. I've got nothing really. I'm not too sure. It could be just another random mad. It's a chorus, isn't it? Voices. Sailor Skull, right. And again, there's this kind of physical versus mental battle going on here. I'm going insane. I'm losing my mind. Her feet made feeble, fleeing motions against the bench. She felt that if she could only command her body to run, she might escape. She had to escape, lest any part of that inner tide sweep her into silence, forever contaminating her soul. But her body would not obey. The mightiest forces in the Imperial universe would obey her slightest whim, but her body would not. I've written next to that, I know how that feels. And here we have this inner voice chuckle again. Then, from one viewpoint, child, each incident of creation represents a catastrophe. It was a basso voice which rumbled against her eyes, and again that chuckle as though deriding its own pontification. My dear child, I will help you, but you must help me in return. Against the swelling background clamour behind that basso voice, Alia spoke through chattering teeth. Who? A face formed itself upon her awareness. It was a smiling face of such fatness that it could have been a baby's, except for the glittering eagerness of the eyes. She tried to pull back, but achieved only a longer view, which included the body attached to that face. The body was grossly, immensely fat, clothed in a robe which revealed by subtle bulges beneath it that this fat had required the support of portable suspensors. You see, the basso voice rumbled, it is only your maternal grandfather. You know me. I was the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. You're dead. She gasped. Sorry, I wanted to get through all of that there because that's his entrance here in a kind of way. And once again, it's a great build up by Frank. There's a lot of good language in this chapter. All sorts of little literary tricks and stuff. He's got a lot of alliteration and things like that. But just this build up here, just the whisper, the chuckle, ha 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 ha. And you can almost imagine it emerging out of the darkness. I'm back, But we get that, and again, there's the grossness, the physical grossness. I feel like is always an aspect of Baron's pardon me. And here he is. It is only your maternal grandfather. You know me. I was the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. And here he is. He's back. The Baron is back. Pure Zap Brannigan's. Yes, very good, Connor. Connor, 30s and golden age sci-fi is great stuff. It is, and I'd add to that a lot of the Victorian stuff and the fantasy sequel as well. I think it's all great. I really miss the short story compilations. Yeah, I got a chunk of them. I'm sure they keep churning them out. I think, but yeah, they're great to find in secondhand bookshops. Just old compilations. But I was looking through a few actually. As a matter of fact, looking for "I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream." But I'd probably argue that after maybe A Boy and His Dog, I'd argue that's probably Harlan's most famous story. I think. Actual story, if you know what I mean. And Connor saying, Connors, I found a load of great anthologies on eBay. I have a few here. I'll maybe see if I can dig them out at some point. Just their collections. A couple of them are particularly good, but I'm wondering where they're at. I'd have to go one way, but I'll maybe see if I can dig out what sort of collections I have. Some old, quite old ones, and some new ones, But see, it was just a sort of wee thing, we'll pick an author, we'll say you're the author, get some of your mates, contribute stories on a theme, and we'll publish, And Asimov's notorious for, dear. Let's see. But you're dead. All right, let's go. You're dead, she gasped. But of course, my dear, most of us within you are dead, but none of the others are really willing to help you. They don't understand you. Now, it's interesting again that we get a little bit more information that we already know this anyway, but most of us within you are dead, but not all. There's personalities in there that belong to living people, such as Jessica. Go away, she pleaded. Oh, please go away. But you need help, granddaughter, the Baron's voice argued. We get Alia's thoughts here. How remarkable he looks, she thought, watching the projection of the Baron against her closed eyelids. And I wrote at this point, are her thoughts private? And as we maybe go on, she maybe wonder about this. Is that a thought that the Baron's put into her head? And she knows what he looks like. She's met him before. She's killed him as a child, which I think is quite interesting. But how remarkable he looks. Remarkable, I don't know, it's maybe just a particular word, but it's almost as if the Baron's admiring himself. Does that make sense in her mind? I'm willing to help you. The Baron wheedled. That's a great word, isn't it? Wheedled. To get what you want by sort of flattery and stuff like that. Wheedling. I'm willing to help you, the Baron wheedled. The others in here would only fight to take over your entire consciousness. Any one of them would try to drive you out. But me, I only want a little corner of my own. So I've written next to that, but also the suggestion is that, again, the problem with Abomination is it seems that one personality can come to the fore and utterly take control and subdue the personality of the person whose body it is. I get that sense that they would fight to take over your entire consciousness. Any one of them would try to drive you out, cast you out. But I only want a wee piece, is what he's saying. Just a little bit. And it's kind of, we go back to if I so much as entertained, just to go back a few pages, she knew that if she once gave her attention, gave it completely, she would be lost. To behold one face out of the multitude and follow the voice of that face would be held by the egocentrism which shared her existence. That's what's happening here. Again, but me, I want only a little corner of my own. Again, the other lives within her lifted their clamor, the tide, again, as it's referred to. once more threatened to engulf her, and she heard her mother's voice screeching. And Alia thought, she's not dead. Shut up, the Baron commanded. Alia felt her own desires reinforcing that command, making it felt throughout her awareness. Inner silence washed through her like a cool bath, and she felt her hammering heart began slowing to a normal pace. Soothingly, the Baron's voice intruded. There's some great writing there, I think. You see, together we're invincible. You help me, and I'll help you. So he's insinuating his way in here, and he's slowly going to try and show that they'll have a dependency, and that she'll be forced to depend on him, I think. Here we go. What do you want? She whispered. A pensive look came over the fat face against her closed eyelids. Ah, my darling granddaughter, he said. I wish only a few simple pleasures. Give me but an occasional moment of contact with your senses. No one else need ever know. Let me but a small corner of your life when, for example, you are enfolded in the arms of your lover. Is that not a small price to ask? Yes. So apparently that is a small price. That's a bit weird. This is going down a road. I suppose there's a number of science fiction books and science fiction shows that have dealt with this kind of thing of two personalities, male and female, occupying the same body. And it can be a very interesting thing. But fear no evil, Heinlein, isn't it? And it's either my favorite comedy of all time or it's my second favorite comedy of all time. But The Man with Two Brains is an absolute delight. But we've got something going along here in a similar fashion, I think. A small corner of your life when, for example, you're enfolded in the arms of your lover. Is that not a small price to ask? So this backs up kind of what I was saying about the multitude being horny, for want of a better word. When we get the description of the siege orgy, the pressures of the multitude, they all seem to take over the Fremen, have a bit of a shag, and then clear off, and the Fremen just pretend it didn't happen, is what I've got from that. And he's sort of looking to do the same thing. It's just a little corner. What sort of corner? What, when you're having sex basically with your lover. Is that not a small price to ask? And she says, yeah. Good. The Baron chortled. Excellent. He's on we go. In return, my darling granddaughter, I can serve you in many ways. I can advise you, help you with my counsel. You will be invincible within and without. You will sweep away all opposition. History will forget your brother and cherish you. You won't let the others take over. They cannot stand against us. And here it is. Here's the deal, if you like. Singly, this is the clincher, I think, in terms of how he's manipulating her. Singly, we can be overcome, but together we command. I will demonstrate. Listen. And the Baron fell silent, withdrawing his image, his inner presence. Not one memory, face, or voice of the other lives intruded. Alia allowed herself a trembling sigh. Accompanying that sigh came a thought. It forced itself into her awareness as though it were her own. But she sensed silent voices behind it. So this is an example of this. A thought in her mind that isn't hers. We've just been told this, and it's not from the Baron, but he's gone quiet. And this is what we're told. The old Baron was evil. He murdered your father. He would have killed you and Paul. He tried to and failed. This is the bit, Julian, I was saying, there's your Greek chorus here. And I also kind of went, technically, no. He murdered your father. Technically, he committed suicide, didn't he? In a funny kind of way. Though he was about to be murdered by the Baron, so we'll give him that. But this is a chorus of, we're assuming, the benevolent voices from within other memory. He's gone quiet. He's sunk back into the background, I think. But this is their attempt to warn her. He's evil. He murdered your father. He would have killed you and your brother. He tried and he failed. So that's pretty much why should you trust this guy, you know. Just check your comments here quickly, folks, you know. Connor was saying I found a lot of great anthologies on eBay. Adventures in Time and Space and the Science Fiction Hall of Fame. Yeah, I think I might have something like that here. Next time I do a wee sci-fi chat in general, I'll dig out some. I'll just dig out what I have and what I can recommend, I suppose. But I've got one collection in particular it's got loads of great stuff in it. I'm trying to remember what it was. But I'd find a short story by Philip Jose Farmer in it that I was hoping to read. I'll see if I can dig it out for next time, just to give a casual mention, even. You know. Let's see. Carson, I'm more of dusty bookstore type, but thanks. Yeah, me too. There's so few bookstores about. Carlos here anymore. We've just got one in the town. And our second-hand bookshop closed, and apart from the odd charity shop, really, but second-hand bookshops are have to go to Belfast for them, and even there, they're not. There used to be some great ones up there, but they've all disappeared. I tend to use, if anyone isn't too sure, what would you call it? abebooks.co.uk for where I'm at, but ABE Books, I think, is a conglomerate of second-hand bookshops all over the world. And it's been very useful to me in the past in terms of finding stuff, and in particular stuff for work, you know. But you know, science fiction books in particular. Let's see. Julian said, "Ego core, damn few ever escape that trap." Duncan, thank you, Julian. Something. The presence of a screeching mother suggests that the memory's shades have a kind of independence, capable of responding morally, perhaps, to what is happening to Alia in real time. Yeah. Yes, indeed. Her mother's voice screeching, probably in despair. You know, that, yeah, as you say, they have an independence. They must be personalities. I always got the sense that they were a bit like shades from Greek mythology, this kind of thing. And in that sense, in a weird way, there are people who, for example, have a shade in the underworld, but also have a presence elsewhere. Does that make sense? It's kind of a bit tricky sometimes with the Greeks and their sense of the underworld and all. And that's kind of similar to the other memory thing, you know, in some ways. But yeah, shades is the good word for it. Memory shades have a kind of independence, capable of responding morally, perhaps, to what is happening to Ali in real time. Her mother's voice screeching. Sure, I should have focused on that a wee bit. I think that's in despair. It's the Baron. Oh no! You know, what are you doing? Oh my God, this is my daughter. This kind of thing, you know. Especially as the Baron seems to have subdued all the other personalities. That would be including her mother and her father, you know. Julian saying the multitude also reminds me of the dead in the Odyssey wanting goat's blood. Very good. Yes, indeed. I was actually thinking about the Greek heroes myself and just their interrogation of shades in the underworld, you know. Bookstores in Belfast are class. There's a couple of great ones, Julian. In particular, I think I haven't talked about the ones in Smithfield, but it's long gone, I think. And there's another big one down around the Cathedral Quarter that I used to go to quite a bit, but I haven't been up in Belfast in quite some time. It wasn't that long ago, actually, but I'll take a wee dander up sometime soon and have a wee nosy about and see what I can see. But generally, it's charity, you know, the charity shops for second-hand books, you know. I'm going to take a wee quick break, folks. I've run out of juice and etc. etc. So I'll pause for a wee quick second. Here, let me just mark where we're at and right. I'll put that there. I'll be right back. Give us a wee second, folks, and we'll carry on. There we go. Sorry about that, folks. Just forgot to bring my drink back, but I nipped down to get some cough medicine as well. Oh, there we go. There we are. Let's see. Cathedral Quarter Place. Yes, Carson, the Oxfam on Ann Street had good science fiction collection. Ah, yes, Ann Street. Keats and Chapman, kind of a mess. Warren Want and the Oxfam Botanic are better. I often don't get up. I tend to hang around Smithfield, that area, but I don't get up to Belfast very much. But yeah, I must take a wee run up. But there used to be some great bookshops in the arcades up there, especially the ones in Smithfield. I've been a long time. It's a long time gone, I think. Let's see. So they said, Julian, yes, Odysseus even encounters a crowd of women in Hades, a curious phenomenon in the ancient world. Yes, indeed. I'm trying to remember that actually, but yeah, all of the major. Hello, Holly. Oh, sorry, I'm getting barked at here. Excuse me a wee second, folks. Do you need out? Are you okay? Bear with me. Sorry. What's up, big sausage? You coming in? Have I got there? Huh? Hello. That's it. Do you need out? Do you need out? Is that it? Are you just saying hello? Oh, she's playing ukulele with her tail. Hello. You just coming to say hello. We'll see if she wants some. Let's try. Are you going to sit and behave? You're just looking for a bit of attention. Is that it? She needs out. Sorry about this, folks. Give me a wee second. Come on. That's a good girl. Come on. Sorry about that, folks. My wife had gone to bed and left some clutter on Holly's bed. That's why she wanted it cleared. So hopefully we can get on there. Sorry about that. Oh, she's back. Oh no. We're out. Oh, she's a pain sometimes. You just behave there. She's sitting outside wagging her tail. But she wants to go out sometimes. So she won't go out without the other dog, you see. So it's it's one of those, a little bit of a waiting game sometimes, you know. God, I'm long overdue a read of the Odyssey and the Iliad, I have to say. That's always taken a bit. I think I didn't read the Iliad that long ago, but it's been a wee while since I've read the Odyssey. I think I went looking for. I think my problem was, I've got a lovely copy of the Odyssey I must read, actually. Yeah. Just occurred to me. I've got a lovely one with E.V. Rue. It's illustrated and has all this photographic archaeological evidence, etc. And it's really nice. I would go with that sometimes. But yeah. Odysseus, crowd of women in Hades. I don't remember that. I'm trying to remember the Odysseus counters in Hades, and then we have the same thing with Aeneas, don't we? I think as well, with the entering into the underworld. But it's usually part of the hero's journey that they pop into the underworld and sort of have a bit of a natter with, some people that they encounter there to get a bit of insight, or sometimes to be updated on what's been happening in the world, isn't it? I think with Odysseus, they sort of let them know how, everybody's dead, this kind of thing, And queer hound that, yes, indeed, our Holly Holiday. Well, she's no. She's a lovely big girl. Right, sorry, folks. I just sorted myself out a wee drink there and making a smoke. Because we've still got plenty to get through. The interesting, I suppose, in terms from my point of view, doing research and stuff, a lot of it hit the first half of the chapter. The second half, as we're pushing on now, is where we've got this encounter with not really an encounter, I suppose, the arrival of the Baron within Alia's mind, and I suppose the conversation that will ensue. But first of all, what does he want? A little corner inside her mind. When do you want it now? And what do you want it for? For whenever you're having a bit of nookie, I wouldn't mind, taking over, basically. It's quite perverted. Is that a small price to ask? Yes, it's fine. It's a bit bizarre. Anyway, and he's really insinuating in with it, we can stand together we can do this. And as I said, ultimately, this is the strategy. We're going to have to maybe try to figure out what is truly different about what's happening here with Alia, and Leto's strategy to prevent himself from becoming an abomination. Or maybe the fact that he accepts it, and allows one, and puts one person in charge of the multitude. But I'm wondering, why does she go nuts and he doesn't, basically? It's an interesting question. I suppose we're ultimately all different, aren't we? We get many different aspects of Kwisatz Haderach within these books. So let's see, where do we get to? Yes, the chorus that sort of speaks from other memory. The old Baron is evil. He murdered your father. He'd kill you, and Polly tried and failed. And the Baron's voice came to her without a face. Of course I would have killed you. Didn't you stand in my way? But that argument is ended. You won it, child. You're the new truth. She felt herself nodding, and her cheek moved scratchingly against the harsh surface of the bench. His words were reasonable, she thought. And again, is that her own thought? A Bene Gesserit precept reinforced the reasonable character of his words. The purpose of argument is to change the nature of truth. Well, see Wiki for that if anybody wants to look into argument. I would have said the purpose of argument is to determine the nature of truth, not necessarily to change it. But this is the Baron's thinking here, and it's maybe slightly twisted. I think his words were reasonable as part of his thinking, and I think, is it possible that he's put this particular precept out there as well? We can never know, really. This is going to be Alia's problem, but this is also a Bene Gesserit precept that she would have probably know herself anyway. But it reinforced the reasonable character of his words. Sounds suspicious to me. The purpose of argument is to change the nature of truth. Yes, that was the way the Bene Gesserit would have it. There you go. Precisely, the Baron said. And I am dead while you're alive. I have only a fragile existence. I'm a mere memory self within you. I am yours to command. And how little I ask in return for the profound advice which is mine to deliver. It's profound. What do you advise me to do now? She asked, testing. You're worried about the judgment you gave last night, he said. You wonder if Payman's words were reported truthfully. Perhaps Javid saw in this Payman a threat to his position of trust. Is this not the doubt which assails you? Yes. And your doubt is based on acute observations, is it not? Javid behaves with increasing intimacy towards your person. Even Duncan has noted it, hasn't he? So he's already being kind of familiar in terms of her husband, if you like. He has no privacy. Very well then. Take Javid for your lover and he's cut off here. No. You worry about Duncan, but your husband is a Mentat mystic. He cannot be touched or harmed by activities of the flesh. Have you not felt sometimes how distant he is from you? But buddy, Duncan's Mentat part would understand. Should he ever have need to know, the device you employed in destroying Javad. And I've written down that is sex. Prior to that, the whole don't worry about Duncan, he can't be harmed. He can't. This is the Baron going to work on her. The arguments, the manipulation, etc., etc. Oh, he's not going. He won't feel anything about that. He won't be bothered. He's a mental mystic. And especially in that he would the Duncan's mentat part would understand should he ever need to know the device you employed in destroying Javad. And in other words, we're going to find this, it's sex, isn't it? So therefore, it wouldn't be a kind of a love thing. It's we're going to use sex to destroy this guy. And destroying Javad, destroying is the word destroy. Dangerous tools may be used, but they should be cast aside when they grow too dangerous. And this harkens back, of course, to the Baron and Piter. The back and forth that they would have, and that always that Piter was very, very dangerous. And if Piter hadn't died when he did, there would have been a point when the Baron was going to kill him real soon because he was dangerous. And this is part of the Baron's lesson that we're going to learn. Certainly, dangerous tools may be used, but they should be cast aside when they grow too dangerous. Then why should I? I mean, you precious dunce, because of the value contained in the lesson. I don't understand. This is almost behavior that, by the way, the value of the lesson, this kind of thing, it's kind of behavior that we might have seen with Paul Atreides before, isn't it? Values contained in lessons. So values, my dear grandchild, depend for their acceptance upon their success. Javid's obedience must be unconditional. Javid's obedience must be unconditional. His acceptance of your authority absolute, and he's cut off. The morality of this lesson escapes. Is that escapes? Hang on. And she's cut off. Don't be dense, grandchild. Sorry, I thought I'd written something in there. The morality of this lesson escapes. I've written down Aesop here for a reason, just to kind of nudge me here. The Baron is not teaching morals. And it's something that I hear a lot whenever Aesop's Fable is one of my favorite things in the world. Often you hear them described or talked about by people who are not really, I don't know, maybe it's just the wrong choice of words, but they're often described as morals, and they're not. They're anything. They're not morals at all. They're about how to live, and they're not all necessarily good things. They're clever things, but morals are not moral is not the word I would use for Aesop's Fables. And I don't think that the Baron is trying to teach Alia in any sense of the word morality here. Values depend upon their acceptance. Depend for their acceptance upon their success. Quite possibly not. And this is the Baron talking here anyway. Javid's obedience must be unconditional, his acceptance of your authority absolute, and his. And I've also written next this is that because we're talking about sex here, but at this point I wrote, is this sexual domination? Now, I'm going to say no because of something that happens on the next page, but we'll get to it. Baron says, don't be dense, grandchild. Morality must always be based on practicality. Render unto Caesar and all that nonsense. A victory is useless unless it reflects your deepest wishes. Is it not true that you have admired Javid's manliness? Render unto Caesar, from the Gospel, the New Testament, etc., I've often said is probably the most important line in the New Testament. And it tells you enough about what you need to know. I think. Now, Alia, so is it not true that you've admired Javid's manliness? So Alia, what we're back onto is manliness here. Alia swallowed, hating the admission, but forced to it by her complete nakedness before his inner watcher. Yes. Good. How jovial the words sounded within her head. Good. He's happy. Now we began to understand each other. When you have him helpless, then in your bed, convinced that you are his thrall, you will ask him all about payment. Sorry, you will ask him about payment. Do it jokingly, a rich laugh between you. And when he admits the deception, you will slip a crysknife between his ribs. Ah, the flow of blood can add so much to your satisfaction. And he's going to say satisfaction there, I think. He's cut off again by Alice. No! Well, sorry, no. Sorry, she whispered, her mouth dry with horror. No, no, no. So she's still refusing him at this point. Then I will do it for you, the Baron argued. It must be done. You must admit that. Sorry, you admit that. If you but set up the conditions, I will assume temporary sway over. No! Your fear is so transparent, granddaughter. My sway of your senses cannot be else but temporary. There are others now who could mimic you to a perfection that, but you know this. With me, people would say, with me, people would spy out my presence immediately. You know the Fremen law for those possessed. You'd be slain out of hand. Yes, even you. And you know I do not want that to happen. I'll take care of Javid for you, and once it's done, I'll step aside. You need only... How is this good advice? It'll rid you of a dangerous tool. And child, it sets up the working relationship between us, a relationship which can only teach you well about future judgments, which teach me naturally. Alia put her hands over her eyes, trying to think, knowing that any thought might be known to this presence within her, that a thought might originate with that presence and be taken as her own. So this is Alia. That's where I've written her problem here. Just needed to highlight. There we go. How do you know if these thoughts are your own? And it's an important thing, I suppose. Connor, he wants to be her pocket Machiavelli. Absolutely. Yes, indeed. Full speed ahead for the Machiavellian. But a bit of Byzantine intrigue. And let's start off by having sex with someone, and then I'm killing them. He's straight in there. The only thing that I thought about that was possibly not right was that there was a distinct lack of food, in relation to this plot. Possibly having the Baron and your other memory might cause dietary problems more than anything. But she's fighting him here. But you worry needlessly, the Baron wheedled. I love that word. This payment fellow now what I did was wrong. I was tired and acted hastily. I should have sought confirmation of... And here's again, the Baron cuts her off, and here comes a speech. You did right. Your judgments cannot be based on any such foolish abstract as that Atreides' notion of equality. That's what kept you sleepless, not Payman's death. You made a good decision. He was another dangerous tool. You acted to maintain order in your society. Now there's a good reason for judgment, not this justice nonsense. There's no such thing to a society when you try to achieve such a false balance. And it's still interesting to me that I wonder what is the Atreides notion of equality in law, etc., especially when, I get the sense that if anybody talks back, you can be executed. That there you go. There's equality of Atreides law. But he's going, no, you did spot on. Everything that you did was fine. And who gives a what's this equality nonsense? Here's a threat to the state. Um, a challenge to your authority. Plenty of reason to kill him. Kill him. It was. It's unsettling to society when you try to achieve such a false balance. But Alia felt pleasure at this defense of her judgment against payment, but shocked at the amoral concept behind the argument. And again, I'm not really sure why, because the Atreides aren't, they're either very loose with their morals, but they're certainly amoral themselves. When they do, I think that they understand right and wrong perfectly well, but they don't necessarily give a monkeys. Propaganda, etc., etc. Equal justice was in Atreides. She took her hands from her eye, but kept her eyes closed. All of your priestly judges should be admonished about this error, the Baron argued. Decisions must be weighed only as to their merit in maintaining an orderly society. Past civilizations without number have foundered on the rocks of equal justice. Such foolishness destroys the natural hierarchies, which are far more important. Any individual takes on significance only in his relationship to your total society. Unless the society be ordered in logical steps, no one can find a place in it, not the lowliest or the highest. Come, grandchild, you must be the stern mother of your people. It is your duty to maintain order. That's a heck of a speech, isn't it? And the natural hierarchies, which are far more important. And really, he's talking within the Dune universe, he's talking about the Fifre-like system, I think, here, isn't he? And that the individual only has significance in relation to the total society. You must be the stern mother. Everything Paul did was to. Your brother's dead, a failure. So are you. And I've written no, by the way, next to your brother's dead, a failure. That's not true. Baron, so are you. True. But with me, it was an accident. Beyond my designing. Come now, let us take care of this Jabad as I have outlined for you. So the Baron sees his demise as an accident. Quite possibly, again, Paul Atreides becoming the Kwisatz Haderach one generation early, possibly an accident. All sorts of accidental things happen, don't they? It's an interesting way of looking at it, but that's it. It was just an accident, didn't work out for me. Beyond my designing. And he did some designing, didn't he? Best laid plans of mice and men off go awry, don't they? So Alia, we're told, she felt her body grow warm at the thought and spoke quickly. I must think about it. And she thought, if it's done, it'll be only to put Javad in his place. No need to kill him for that. And the fool might just give himself away in my bed. To whom do you talk, my lady? A voice asked. So she's going for it, I think. We'll go for the sexy kind of interrogation, using my body as a weapon kind of thing, but I'll not kill him. But the Baron's already said he's going to do it, and this is the bit where he wants to take over. So she's going to allow this by the looks of it, but she thinks that she'll maybe just get what she needs out of him, information, etc. But from a guard, we're told, to whom do you talk, my lady? A voice asked. We're told for a confused moment, Alia thought this another intrusion by those clamorous multitudes within, but recognition of the voice opened her eyes. And here we have Ziorenka Valafor, who's the chief of Alia's guardian Amazons, stood beside the bench, a worried frown on her weathered Fremen features. So Ziorenka, again, I'm not too sure why, just referring back to Javad being called Ziorenko Javad. I didn't get that. I still don't get it. Nobody's calling them after this, but from this point on, we have Ziorenka Valafor. And if that was a title, I don't. It might have made sense, but in this, from this point on, we'll see that Alia abbreviates Ziarenka Valafor's name to Zia in a kind of an attempt at familiarity, I think, and to get her close to her. So once again, Valafor is a Duke of Hell from all of these grimoires. And there we go. There we go. Sigil, if you like. This is interesting, I suppose, the way we've had these names spread out. One's to a guild agent, one's to a house miner, and then here we have a Fremen with this name. Again, a Fremen with a Polish first name, if it is a first name. I'm assuming it's the female form of Ziarenko. But the Valafor is a Duke of Hell, according to these grimoires, demonology grimoires, etc. She's chief of Alia. Again, you could have maybe went for the name of an Amazon technology, but still a worried frown on her weathered features. I speak to my inner voices, Alia said, sitting up on the bench. She felt refreshed, buoyed up by the silencing of that distracting inner clamor. Your inner voices, my lady. Yes. Ziarenka's eyes glistened as information. Everyone knew the holy Alia drew upon the inner resources available to no other person. Bring Javad to my quarters, Alia said. There's a secret matter I must discuss with him. To your quarters, my lady? Yes, to my private chamber. As my lady commands. The guard turned to obey. One moment, Alia said. Has Master Idaho already gone to Siege Tabar? Yes, my lady. He left before dawn as you instructed. Do you wish me to send for? No. I will manage this myself. And Zia, no one must know that Javad is being brought to me. Do it yourself. This is a very serious matter. So we have within that, I suppose, trust, complicity, power, and familiarity, if you like, within that statement to Zia. And we get the sense that she enjoys this, or that she's getting a sense that she herself is getting closer to power. Her eyes glistened at this information, stuff, little private tidbit about Alia. The guard, so do it yourself. This is a very serious matter. The guard touched the crysknife at her waist. Sorry, at her wrist, was that? Let me just double check that. That's my handwriting, but I think it was wrist. 93. No, it's waist. Oh, sorry. Kind of weird thing. Let me just fix that, folks. At her, yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, that's okay. At her waist. There we go. Okay, the guard touched the crysknife at her waist. My lady, is there a threat to... Yes, there's a threat, and Javad may be at the heart of it. Oh, my lady, perhaps I should not bring Zia. Do you think me incapable of handling such a one? A lupine smile touched the guard's mouth. It's wolfish. Forgive me, my lady. I will bring him to your private chamber at once, but with my lady's permission, I will mount guard outside your door. You only, Alia said. Yes, my lady. I go at once. Alia nodded to herself, watching Ziarenka's retreating back. Javad was not loved among the guards then. Another mark against him. But he was still valuable. Very valuable. He was her key to Jack Urutu. And with that place, well... Perhaps you were right, Baron, she whispered. Uh-oh. When our chapter ends, you see the voice within her chortled, this will be a pleasant service to you, child. And it's only the beginning. Sorry, I put the but there we go. And we're through that chapter. There was absolutely tons in it, folks. It's interesting that maybe if you kind of read these things and just thought that, for example, the demon names, they're just character names, etc. You wouldn't, but there's a real setting up of a hellish situation here, the underworld. Characters, houses, even a Fremen guard. Interesting to have a Fremen guard with two names. I think to have a Fremen with two names actually seems odd as well. And I'm still not too sure about the Ziarenko thing, the Ziarenko attached to Javid. I'm really not too sure about that at all. I know everybody says it's in their books as well, but it's not making any sense to me at all. Let me just have a wee quick look. If I can quickly see something here. Bear with me a wee second. Where are you? Children of Dune. Let's go with find. Let's see. How are we spelling that? Bear with me a wee second. Ziarenko. Yes, indeed. There is only. I've just done a word search on the e-copy of Frank Herbert's Children of Dune, and there is only one instance of Ziarenko in the entire book, and that's it there. And I think it doesn't belong where it belongs. I genuinely think that's a misprint. Ziarenko, pretty much the same, isn't it? And two instances of Ziarenkas, and that is it. Yeah, I don't know what that's about, folks. I don't know if anybody's got any ideas, but I genuinely think that I think Ziarenko is definitely meant to be Valifor's first name, but I don't know why Ziarenko is there, and we're not going to find out, are we? That's just bonkers. I think that there's some sort of typographical error, and I don't think that the word should have appeared next to Javid's name. In all honesty, it doesn't make any sense. When he's introduced, unless it's a title, in which case the word's not going to be used again in the book. We're not going to get any clue. So my own opinion is that Ziarenko Javid is that the word Ziarenko should not be next to his name at all, and somehow it's ended up there. And that it should belong attached to. In fact, I actually consistently call, in my notes, I call Ziarenko Valifor. But her name makes sense being attached to, we're giving it as her name. Introduced to her, Javid's not introduced to us at all. I went back and had a look at Ziarenko Javid, that's not there. So I think it's genuinely a textual mistake. I think that Ziarenka does belong with Valifor's name, but it shouldn't be attached to Javid. But there we go. And what a great chapter. Well, the Baron is back. He's taking over Alia, and we really do get a sense of the tragic with Alia, don't we? She fights this, and it's in a fatalistic way. It seems that it's an unwinnable battle. Certainly at this point, and we get it from the epigraph at the beginning. We get a real sense of that. This is exactly, and we will find out that this is pretty much what Leto does to maintain his own sense of self with the multitude as he becomes the God Emperor. But it's not going to work for her. And immediately the Baron, he's straight out of the bat, and he's looking for Nuki, Nuki and death, isn't he? Nuki, death, power. Oh dear, oh dear. Again, if it was a title, Connor, the idea that Ziarenka, that would be gender. O for male, A for female. But it's baffling me. And one's a priest, a master of priestly ceremony, and the other one's a guard. And then refers to the guard by Zia, and that's clearly a shortened version of that person's name. Unless it's like sort of Ziarenka's like lieutenant. I get it. I can't make sense of it. It's a wee mystery to me. But it could be a few things. But which one is it? I don't know. But I'm going to go with a typographical error. I'm afraid. But I wonder what you think of that chapter. I adored it. Um, I thought the pacing in it was really good. I thought the writing was great. I thought it was quite poetic in some places. I thought it did a great job of giving us a little kind of synopsis of Alia's life, showing us the downhill struggle, the downhill battle that she fights. It generates our sympathy for her. We can imagine what a hell this kind of thing is to her. And all the pressures as well of just her normal existence, she's got this to put up with, and she's had to deal with it since before she was born. She's an innocent who's had this inflicted upon her. As much as we talk the sins of the father or the sins of the son, which I've always thought was nonsense, but very much in the case of this, the sins of the mother, I think, have a real impact on the daughter, and to the point of her destruction, I think. But I've always, Ali is a tragic character, and she's I think, highly sympathetic character. And as I said, particularly with the stepping off the ladder, one may fall upwards. Or leaving the ladder, one may fall upwards. I think within that, there's definitely a clue. I think a bit of foreshadowing in relation to her salvation, if you like. But I also thought it was interesting to look at it in terms of Payman in particular, and then maybe Javid as well, and ultimately also, of course, perhaps Valafor, who's seeing a chance at a position and power. But you could, but yeah, it's interesting, and of course, yeah, looking forward to getting ahead and finding out the answer to a few of these things. But it was, for me personally, it was great to finally come back to this book and have some questions answered that I've been wondering about for a long time. And the answers are always there, as I keep telling my students. You just have to go looking. But I just hadn't gone looking. And sort of kind of always known that I would hit these books one more time, and kind of wanted to do it at the right time, if you see what I mean. But I've often wondered about why is it that Alia is able to see the Baron? Why are there men in her other memory? And we're told in this chapter it's her ancestral memory. It's all her ancestors, and that's how it works for her. And that's got to make her a Kwisatz Haderach as well, I think. But it makes sense for me now. I'm not going to wonder about why is the Baron there anymore. I know, and regardless of you can see that as to how it would be driving her mad. The madness is maybe a different type of madness. It's the subsumation of a personality by another, perhaps. Let's just catch up with your comments, folks. Pocket Machiavelli. I like that, Conrad. It reminds me on a. What does it remind me on a? I think it's a Far Side cartoon. Something about ink leaking in pockets, but the guy's got a pocket octopus that's leaked in his shirt. Something like that. But yeah, I like that. A pocket Machiavelli. Very good. Let's see. By calling his death an accident, the Baron is removing agency from Alia's act. He is, isn't he? Very good, Cynthia. Yes, indeed. She kills him. And it's no accident, does it? She deliberately kills him. He's murdered, for want of a better word, or just killed in an act of warfare. But yes, indeed, as an accident, It's my God, my God, Jabbar. Very good indeed, yes. He's kind of absolving her of responsibility. I suppose ultimately she'll kill him again. By calling his death an accident, the Baron is removing agency from Alia's act. Absolutely. Well done, Cynthia. Thank you. Clara Quinn said, true. The name thing looks really fishy now. You might be right. Yeah, it just doesn't feel right. I thought if there were other instances of it in the book, that would explain it. But we've got multiple copies here, I think. Same with yourselves, you've all got. Doesn't make any sense. And I think it's just genuinely a textual error, Zyrenka's eyes glistened. You wouldn't say Captain's eyes glistened. Yeah, it is. I genuinely think it's a mistake. Next to Javid's name, I think it should. I think all the instances of Zyrenka there are correct. And it's maybe something that the author's been playing about with, and it's just not been noticed, and because it looks like a proper noun, sorry, a proper name, then it's probably just gone unnoticed. It's easily enough done, you know. Cynthia says, Shade Jessica's advice. You're going with Shade Jessica. I like sub psycho Jessica. Cynthia. Shade Jessica's advice early in the chapter that Alia think about Atreides' law, regardless of hypocrisy, is good advice to strengthen Alia, since that is the one thing that the Baron works hard to break down. And I suppose interesting, the Empire under Atreides' law has got to be different than the Empire under Shaddam the Fourth's law. And already, the interesting thing about, in terms of what you're saying about strengthening it, is that there's more than one legal system in place, and that the Atreides accept that Atreides law for the Empire, but Fremen law for the Fremen. And especially when, how you consider them Fremen, are they not? Which law applies, and we see that even with properly blind, and that's only goes under it. But ultimately, adhering to Fremen law and going out into the desert, Yeah, it's a great chapter. And have any questions or comments, fire them away, folks. I thought it was great fun, and it's taking us into some funny places in terms of where Frank's getting his source material from. I said, even if it's just names and things, there's a definite sense of hell. I had the things like the bottomless, the sense of the nature of other memory, and the multitude, like being like a bottomless pit, a swarm of locusts, this kind of thing. And of course, the Baron popping out as a beast, But a great chapter. And as I do apologize, it wasn't that I just simply took me that long to do a lot of the work on this, to look things up and stuff, that I never had it finished didn't have a chance of finishing it last night. Even though I put a lot of it, but I've got about, let me see, I've got 97 notes on this chapter, and it's a nice bit of a change, because we've had a few chapters where there's not too much to research or figure out or find out. And I think it is interesting when you do know these things, not that they're not going to really change the nature of the story for us in any way, but they do help kind of shape the character and mood and nature of each chapter, if you like, and the sense of the damnation and hell, etc., within this, and poor old Payman, is he damned, or damned if he does, damned if he doesn't? Are we getting perhaps a sense of doom, perhaps something of hellish because of this character Valifor as well? But it's simply here on a minor house that's kind of named two characters in a minor house named after dukes or demons or kings of hell, basically. As it's starting to take us towards this ideas of Gnosticism and this kind of thing. And what's the word I'm looking for? Hang on a second. I suppose some spiritualism, demonology. Let me see. No, bear with me a wee second. There we go. Spelling it wrong. Occultism. It's the word I was probably looking for. Yeah, that's a good one. Occultism. Just quickly having a look at Aleister Crowley there and all sorts of that sort of stuff. Yeah. Occultism, magic, etc. And at the same time, it's going to take us into aspects of the early ancient sort of sects of Christianity, and particular ones that are influenced by different aspects of Greek thought, in particular the ideas of likes of Plato and Socrates and Aristotle and so on and so forth, and there's quite a lot to all this kind of Gnosticism stuff and all. And certainly, a lot of these kind of sects are still floating around, even up into the 4th century BC, AD. And even you get things, even just the various aspects of, how would you call it? Maybe these cults of Christianity at the time. You get things like the Council of Nicaea set up by Constantine to kind of deal with some aspects of some of the people who are involved in some of these ideas, like some Martian and Montanus and stuff like this. God, I can hardly remember anything about these people. But it's going to be interesting. I'll have to do a wee bit of research on it and try and do a wee bit of reading, etc., etc. Shade Jessica. So I was still thinking something's gone with Shade Jessica, and how do I refer to the other Jessica? I went with Sub Psycho. I like that. Children's where Frank seems to be up to the amount of his references. Yeah, but he's gone to different places, I think, as well, which is quite interesting. Julian, he's taken us off into other cultures, really, as opposed to one sort of focused within the kind of Middle East and Mediterranean, if you like, saying that there's always been aspects of things like Buddhism and stuff like that, and Zen in there too. Connor saying James Joyce would do something similar, gathering the words he wanted to use together to build mood. There's a new translation of Cornelius Agrippa's 3 books. I'm thinking of getting Agrippa. What have we got? Have we got Cornelius Agrippa? Hang on. See the Agrippa I'm thinking of. Be careful, because it also sounds like a Dutch name for some reason to me. This Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa. Is that who you're talking about? I thought you were talking about Agrippa. Yeah. Cornelius. It was German. Is that, I take it, who you're talking about? German Renaissance polymath. Yes. 3 books of occult philosophy. Right. Published in 1533, drew heavily upon Kabbalah, Hermeticism, and Neoplatonism. His book was widely influential among esotericists of the early modern period and was condemned as heretical by the Inquisitor of Cologne. There we go. Works. Oh, they can really come up with a title for a book in those days, can't they? De Insurgendunine id Vanitate Scientiarum Aquae Artium Declamatio Invictiva. This is a declamation attacking the uncertainty and vanity of the science and the arts. Also, a declamation on the nobility and preeminence of the female sex. 3 books concerning occult philosophy. The Occult of Philosophy, Libre 13. I used to sort of look into this stuff when I was kind of a late teens, university. Everybody was kind of going down to the local, I don't know, what would you call them? New age shops, this kind of thing. And all that sort of stuff it was a lot of the rage amongst some people. I kind of read into some of it, but yeah. Frank's really shows the transition. From Neoplatonism, Platonism. I'm having trouble with that one. From Neoplatonism into the Christian scholars. And the Nag Hammadi Library is an interesting book, and that's the man. Yes, indeed. Yeah, what was I thinking? What have I got here? No, I'm thinking on something else entirely. I'm not thinking on. Oh, sorry, my brain. Agrippa's a Roman general. That's who I was thinking on, but actually, my brain jumped to someone else. I was thinking on, is it Tacitus? Tacitus wrote about his father-in-law was Agricola. That's who I was thinking on. Agricola. He wrote the Agricola and the Germania. Sorry, but I was getting my brain was getting cross-wired there, Connor. But yes, indeed. A lot of old Christian scholarship, like esoterics, the Hermeticists, became modern literary theory. They're a cookie bunch of people. I think the modern ones, anyway. Like a Crowley would be. Probably I read some of his stuff a long time ago, magic and things like that. But I knew somebody who, obviously, once upon a time, but a long time ago, I went out with a girl who, her sister was married to a guy called Damocles, and his family, I think there were 7 brothers, and they're all named after kings of Rome and Greece or something. But my understanding is that his father And he'd be that'd be another couple of another 20 years, but think between another 10, another generation at least away. I think his father was a groundskeeper for Crowley up somewhere near Loch Ness or something, you know. So he told me anyway, whether it's true or not. But yeah, we're going to have to. Yeah, I'm going to have to start reading up on this stuff. It's we're Abraxas and Gnosticism, demiurges, and all of this kind of stuff. Okay, it's all somewhere in the back of my head, but it's that old, and it's not that. And I came to, particularly with the esoteric, well, you know, all these guys, it's just hocus pocus. As far as I'm concerned, I tend to take them with a wee bit of with a bit of pinch of salt, you know, with a heavy dose of salt. But it's still interesting, you know. These guys, you know. See this guy, Heinrich Kunis, Agrippa. There you go. There's John Dee. He's the guy with the monad and all that, isn't he? Book is a major influence on such later magical thinkers as Giordano Bruno and John Dee. There's stuff like this turns up, by the way. Oddly enough, the Modan stuff like this turns up in the ABC Warriors and Nemesis, the kind of Nemesis, the Warlock ABC Warriors kind of switch around. It's an ABC Warriors book. Is it the Time Tunnels or what book is it? There's a lot of that stuff in that. It's the one. It's the one that. It's a brilliant one. It's the one that's. It's the one that's drawn by Simon Bisley in black and white. I've actually got a tattoo from it. Let me see. Just having a wee quick look. Stories, chronology. Retreat from Volgai. Steelhorn and the Time. The Black Hole, is it? Sent by also called The Black Hole in reprints. The End of Time, that one. What would have been probably book 5 in the Titan books, I think. 21 episodes. Simon Bisley and SMS. I remember quite enjoying that at the time. Yeah, the monad disguised in the form of Abaddon, blah blah blah. It was pretty good. And then that kind of went on into the Chronicles of Chaos. I seem to recall some stuff about that. Oh, I've got a noodle bug crawling at the door now as well, you know. Yeah, Nemesis, the Warlock. Yes, indeed. That's the one. Just going to catch up. Sorry, I'm going to have to see our wee noodles here a wee second, folks. But I'll probably wrap up actually for tonight in a wee second. A lot of the old Christian scholarship, like modern literature. Philip K. Dick was an authority on Gnosticism, apparently, says Connor. Have a wee nosy at that. And Nemesis, yes. And enjoyed discussion, says Cynthia, especially the references to the underworld. Thanks all. No, thank you very much as well, everybody. And some great comments and great points there. So much going on in this chapter. I think it's a really good chapter just to launch us forward a wee bit with the action. A great arrival from the Baron, a great entrance, I think, and genuinely a lot of sadness. I think, personally, I think you would get to see a very sad and almost impossible situation for Alia here, and a real sense of her tragedy. You know, what I'm looking at, I've got a very, very short chapter next, I think, which I may just deal with. Maybe, hang on, let's see. Oh no, hang on, the wrong chapter. Yeah, we've got the next chapter is like 2 pages, isn't it, or something? That'll be a good safety net for me for next week. Where hopefully we'll get back on time as normal, folks, you know. But I will wrap up. I'm still trying to watch the throat a wee bit. It is getting better a little bit every day. And I do apologise about all the sort of little bit about a bother we've been having lately, and my health's not been great. I think we've lost a wee bit of our audience and stuff. But we'll try to pick it up and get that momentum going again. So there we go, folks. But listen, it's Friday night. It's not Saturday morning, so I hope you enjoy your weekend. And I hope you are keeping safe wherever you are at. Looking after yourselves, you know, and you know, thinking of some of you out there, especially with things like hurricanes and wars and stuff. So I hope you're all keeping your head down and being safe, folks, you know. Connor saying, very interesting, a big question, clearly answered. Well, for me, it was because do you know something, Connor? That's the great thing, though. But I've enjoyed the conversation about it more. Does that make sense? It's something that we've chatted a fair amount. A lot of people have put ideas forward as well. It's kind of sad to get an answer to it in some ways, but at the same time, it's good. Maybe we can move on and work at some other mystery within the book, because I'm sure there are plenty of them, you know. But yes, indeed. And as I said, it's a wee bit sad, it's a wee bit tragic. And I think there's a little bit of foreshadowing set up there with our little bit of Zen Sunni philosophy as well for Alia's redemption. There we go. Julie said, bye all, always delighted to chat, June. Yes, indeed. Thank you, June. I'll say, hopefully, folks, I'm getting a wee bit of time this weekend, bit of extra reading on, and I hope to be in touch with a few of you by email, etc., etc. And hopefully bringing some content to the channel quite soon. So very, very busy, but doing my best. And hopefully we'll get a bit of an natter with a few of you as well on Zoom. So look after yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your weekend or the start of your weekend. Look, be careful. Keep enjoying your June material. I'm watching all sorts of stuff and reading all sorts of stuff. And keep up your sci-fi fix, folks. Take it easy and I'll say goodnight. All the best. Bye bye. Do 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 do. Ba-da-ba-bum, ba-ba-ba-bum.